Yeah. Look, smart chick dumb. Say she wanna smoke, baby, roll one. Oh, you can't roll, baby, pack one. We gon' keep smoking till the sack done. Oh yeah, hella chronic and my hyperbolic. Time chamber, yeah, I'm feeling brolic like Goku when he fighting Broly. Peppermint green Maserati. What I'm trying to get, I know God got me. God sinner, yeah, I'm God body. I'm a pothead up in Potter's house. Glasses on, trying to spot a hottie. No Sue, woo, blue Denali. We was 4D, me and my crew from college. Running through, boy, I called it Charlie. Gangsta like opponent got it. Up early with the birds. See, I'm really trying to get this thing moving. See, the money playing probably seem Jewish. Got the upper hand, got the theme music. Got the Dapper Dan jeans still. Dripping water, yeah, seem fluid. You a capper, can't snitch. Self-esteem foolish, really improving. Let me show you how to do it. Ain't no carbon copy, ain't no duplicate. I control minds 4 states away. Get the party popping for my crew. Fresh out the shower, yeah. Coat be my bathrobe. I ain't new to this. Taking flights and catching Ubers. Blowing kisses to the stewardess.
Good weed too strong. Got a bad her too long. You can fly like 2 Jones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed too strong. Got a bad her too long. Young fly like 2 drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed too strong. Got a bad her too long. Young fly like 2 drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Haters cut it out like a coupon. I'm on top of the green like I'm a crouton. My young told me get a hand bone. I told him that I'd rather have a cube on. Listen. Hey, it's been a good day. I had to put that ice cube on. Got a bad looking like a cube on. Smoke a big wishing like a cube on. Yeah. Keep winning, y'all lose on. You know if it's me, it's you, homie. Cross me, I'ma get my Uncle Drew on. You know murder is an art, you get Drew on. Me and Q type get 2 bones. Smoke a whole 56, 2 zones. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Try to stop, get a tombstone. Get ghost just to see what your boo on. More kids in the mouth than a group home. As a kid, all I wanted was a coupe on dubs just to pull it off the lot with the roof gone. Good weed too strong. Got a bad her too long. Yeah, fly like 2 drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah, good weed too strong. Got a bad her too long. Yeah, fly like 2 drones. Never leave the house without the tool on. Need a new coupe with the roof gone. One for me, one for mama, need 2 homes. Never leave the house without the tool on. Never leave the house without the tool on. Yeah.
Can you feel it? I can feel it. I can feel it. It starts in my head. It starts to move.
The boy said on top of the green like a crouton. It's like, now you're talking.
Yo, okay. That was your voice right there, yo.
That was my brother. That was my brother Cam. That's Cam and DQ.
Yeah. Oh, who wrote those verses?
I wrote the y'all didn't hear my first verse. The song was already playing. That was the second verse. Cam wrote his whole second verse. That's my brother.
Play it again. Oh man, I need to get you like a ghostwriter, man. I know that's what I'm listening to
right there, yo. I already know if that can compete with the young shit. That's it right there. Y'all was like, yeah. I need a ghostwriter, man. I could dance, so I say that's it right there, yo. I felt like running and get the joint. I say, yeah, that's it.
DQ, you got some shit, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
I say that's when it's right. When I feel like going to get the joint, I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I went upstairs and got the joint, DQ. I was like, that's it. I'm going outside. I was like, no, I'm dreaming. That was a song.
I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all show me love.
Never leave the house. I was like, yeah, never leave the house because we in Georgia, yo, and it's a state to carry. Man. Nobody's getting slapped around here without getting this shit slapped. It's a legal state here. You don't even got to fight in Georgia. You just mind your business and chill in Georgia. Somebody slap you, pow! You come in like this. That's Georgia.
We ain't been slapped since slavery in Atlanta.
And we ain't been slapped since slavery.
That part. Oh man. Hey man, we in the state. You can practice in your backyard on this though, man.
What? All day. Man, where my phone at, man?
Highly encouraged, right?
Had a whole family at the range shooting. The kids, my little son, everybody like this. It's Georgia, yo. What? Hey, Georgia got the toughest white boys I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, why are they so tough? I was like, damn, they can carry a gun.
Man, you should have heard New Year's out this jump, man. I
Ooh, what?
Yeah. Shit going crazy out here soon.
What?
I'm talking about 1 o'clock in the morning. They still going on like family. You know,
nobody's going to jail,
man.
Nobody's going to jail in Georgia. You're not walking up playing cowboy. You're not bringing a fist to a gunfight in Georgia.
No sir.
Woo-wee, boy, I tell you, Georgia Pine, Georgia.
Yeah, man. But shoot, man, I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and take it over, man. I gotta give me some Z's.
And they got Corona. Stop it. I know you got that.
Sure.
Hey, man, y'all, hey, hell of a night though, man. I appreciate all y'all, man.
Yeah, we just get started.
Definitely one for the books. Thank you, Kent.
Yeah, this is like 6 a.m. Sosa time.
We just getting started.
We're about to get started. Right. What we doing? What's the topic? We ain't got no topic.
This is that hit the button, the smoke session edition, debate aftermath.
Right.
Do what you want to do, Bobby Banger. Go in.
Whatever.
Yeah, buddy.
Already did.
Right. Any thoughts, takeaways from the debate, right? Before we get into it, because I know that's sort of the tail end of what we're wanted to have the conversation about, right?
Everything went smooth. I thought a lot of people in the chat was very engaged too. You know what I mean? So that's always dope. You know what I mean? So engage on an intellectual way. You feel me? American Dream has some good comments, some good questions. You know what I mean? So that's definitely what you want. You know what I mean? So when you got a good show, you look at the comments. I'm seeing hundreds of comments. You know what I mean? So that's what you want. You feel me? Engagement. So that was dope.
Absolutely.
I really like the addition of the dialogue aspect.
Discussion.
Yes, I think that was really, really great. So
yeah, it went well. We added like 5 minutes to it.
Yeah, I think that was great too.
Yeah, we did tack on another 5 minutes, right? To kind of help them get warmed up to it, because this is sort of a newer sort of format that he threw in there, which was good.
I think it allowed really good, adequate time to really get ideas out.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You need a certain amount of time to really get a good footing. So that was
was about 20 minutes, right?
Right. You see with that format, like I said at the beginning, like when you put it up there, it looks like she's gonna be finishing an hour. But I tell you, I've been in some debate.
It came in at 3, right? It came in at around 3 hours, right?
So y'all know kind of how to gauge it, how to scale it back so you can get it within a certain parameters. You feel me?
Well, we did this as like a tester, right?
No, I get it. That's good.
We called it an intelligent conversations. So now we can go back to the lab and tweak it a bit. You feel me? But overall, I think it's a pretty good recipe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You just got, you trim the fat when you need to.
Yeah, we got to trim a little fat. But.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think you can go wrong when you have two really, really prepared debaters. Right?
Correct. No.
So whatever the format that you guys would have threw at them, right? I think they would have did a phenomenal job. But I do have a question for Logic, because you wanted to sort of go in on a piece of what we talked about, because because you guys were so detailed, right? I really like the way that both of you guys sort of stuck to the sources. You substantiated your arguments with the sources that you provided. And Logic, on the tail end of the last conversation, you said that you were thinking about the one question I asked, about the question about enough control, right? And I did have a follow-up on that, but I wanted to pull the thread a bit, right? You said that you wanted to say something regarding that. Do you want to elaborate just a bit before we sort of go into the discussion?
I feel like I did my best at attempting to pitch a perfect game, right? So to keep it as high level as I possibly could have, the word that I used was Parkinson's disease, which I know is a neurological disorder. It's like it's a disorder of the nervous system, and I'm reaching back into some of the things that I read, and I think I might be confusing some of the symptoms of Parkinson's disease with another neurological disorder from an experiment that I read, to where this doctor had a group of people who had this particular neurological disorder, and he took them all to a grocery store. And he gave them all a list of things to go get. And he just, and the participants were unable to complete the task because they couldn't prioritize what was on the list. Like they had a loss of cognitive control. They could not they couldn't resist being distracted by other brands or something that was more familiar to them or something of that nature, right? And it was like 5 or more people that he sent in there and that he took notes on, and none of them were able to complete the task. So that's what I meant when I was saying It's a lot easier to measure the loss of cognitive control rather than it is to measure normal function of the cognitive control. And that's just a product of the instrument, of the tools being limited on how you would actually measure that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like for instance, mild stroke, right? How do you diagnose not mild stroke? And one of the simple things that they will do sometimes, they'll give the person something to read, right? You say, hey, read something very simple and see if they can read it back to them. If they are completely lost in terms of reading from a person that they know is intelligent, should be, is literate, you say, something's going on neurologically with this person.
Right.
I get
and the funny thing is that they would not describe that person as having a loss of free will. that's the real interesting part.
They wouldn't describe it that way because that's not a medical diagnosis, but it is. You feel me? It is a loss of free will. They, like I said, he went to the grocery store. They couldn't even make the decision to do other than what they did. You see what I'm saying? So yeah.
You said it's a loss of free will?
Yeah, because they couldn't, like the person that went to the store, they couldn't do nothing.
Exactly. Exactly.
How you gonna lose something you don't got?
They just be running right into it.
We'll say what I'm saying is that that's the whole point.
Plan it out.
So it would go under loss of free will. It wouldn't fit the free will.
Damn.
Must have had it at one point.
Yeah. It will be evidence for no free will. In other words.
Dang, he just went right into it.
Hey, Uncle.
Begging the question again.
American Dream had a question for you in the chat. I thought it was a pretty good question.
What did he say?
He asked you from an evolutionary, biological perspective, free will or no free will.
Well, for me, I would say that I'm where the experts are. They don't know yet. They don't know, but I get this one. I will say,
lean, man. Lean.
No. What I will say is what they do understand is I bet you what they do understand now is that it's going to be an evolutionary answer. Yep. It's going to be an evolutionary answer. Now, whether we understand it or not, I have to put what logic is looking for and all that. But based off of listening to the Brain shows, right? The Brain show was like one of the most fascinating shows I've seen. Period, right? And I'm telling you, go back and look at the Brain shows, right? I had no idea that the brain didn't evolve. I thought the brain evolved for you to duck a punch and bang somebody in the mouth. It actually didn't, right? It's got something to do with something totally, ain't got nothing to do with you thinking. Wow to me, right? Like
how you think it worked.
It's counterintuitive, right? And that's y'all got to go. I think y'all need to go back, get those shows down pat, and then go into what they was talking about. But yeah, I'm saying at the end of the day, it's going to be an evolutionary answer. And it's going to be counterintuitive. And I think, I would say that humans have evolved the ability to make choices. That's what I would say. Who knew?
Well, I will say this. And you guys actually pulled me out of a fallacious stance tonight. And actually Marcus did. He pulled me out of a fallacious stance. And let me explain how. And this goes back to your main argument, Logic. When you say that you think about the whole idea of free will from a very pragmatic and practical perspective, right? What is the practical implications of not having free will, right? And one of those things that you described is, okay, well, how do we hold people morally and socially responsible, right? All right, how do we do that if we can't necessarily say that organisms don't have free will, right? So, and I was sort of aligned with that, with that level of thinking, right? From just a strict, practical perspective. But sort of listening to Marcus's argument, I've started to understand. It's like, okay, well, is that a fallacious stance? And let me describe why. Right, that stance, right, can be considered fallacious because saying that free will, right, that the non-existence of free will results in a negative consequence, right? That negative consequence being that we can't hold people morally and socially responsible. Therefore, free will must exist.
Right. Yeah.
Just because the result of it is negative, that doesn't necessarily mean that something is either correct or incorrect. Right. So it has to be completely independent of that. And what's ironic, Logic, is that you pointed out this logical fallacy, right? in one of your in the thing that you filled out. You called it the fallacy of consequence, right? The whole idea of this being a fallacy of consequence, right? What are your thoughts there? Because I think you might have inadvertently boomerang daggered yourself a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So what are your thoughts?
Well, so my thoughts is I mean, obviously initially you understand what I mean by, or maybe you don't, by saying that causality infers that determinism is true, which is the way I originally worded it in my premise, right? So what I'm ultimately thinking is that what we're actually looking at is a blurred line between trying to cross these disciplines, right? When you try to insert what the philosophical definition of free will into biology, then you have there's huge brick walls that you're going to run into, right? And you can't then go on to call these actions free, which is the word that makes it so difficult to make it scientific, and which is why I emphasized it in one of those answers that somebody asked. I think it was Unc asked me, but it'd be free from what, right? Because my whole premise is about how do you hold people morally responsible if they're not the author of their actions. So I'm actually, I would say I'm not boomerang dagging myself because I'm not making the inference, at least in the debate, I never inferred that I would call these actions free, but science would actually separate these reflexes that you don't experience you don't have the how did he put it? The connection of intent to action there with a reflex, right? Whereas it's just going to be difficult to define what's on the opposite end of that spectrum, right? Of what a voluntary action would be, the one that did incorporate your intentional deliberation, some of your internal motivations. That's going to be a word that's difficult to define, but just as difficult to remove from the process of somebody making a decision.
Yeah, and you know what? Quite frankly, I'm glad that you didn't go down the road with the fallacious, the other side is making a fallacious argument stance, because I've seen that a lot with debaters in this community, and it's always it's a pit. It's a bottomless pit. If the other person can prove that you're either using the logical fallacy premise incorrectly, or to state that they are actually standing on a logically sound argument and that you need to address the merits of it, it can kill your entire debate. So I'm glad that you didn't go down the logical fallacy route. But Marcus, and you know what Marcus did, but we'll get into it.
Listen, when you ask the question free from what, the answer is stimuli, influence. That is a debate. You know what I mean? Right. So both sides agree that influence is there.
Right.
One side disagrees that there's another point in which it acts independently, uncoerced. Another
right.
way.
Right. And that was another part of my premise, as far as like why would my actions need to be free from influence in order for me to be able to make rational decisions about, you know, some of these social subjective rules that we live under.
Yeah,
like why would that
rational subjective? Rational
True.
subjective.
True. So are home runs and 3-pointers and money.
Mm-hmm. Rational is totally subjective to the position. You know what I mean? Like rationality to somebody with post-traumatic stress syndrome is not rational to a healthy brain, so to speak. You know?
I have something that I wanted to add. Just two things. First, I wanted to let people know that the poll is up. You just go to Pseudo Killer community page if you didn't get to vote, and you can place your vote there. And I wondered if it would be okay if everyone except for the debaters state what their position is. Is that something everyone is comfortable with? That's one of the questions from the audience. I didn't know how.
Well,
like 30 seconds or less.
Uncle already said his position.
He did.
He's not going. You know what I mean? I'm a determinist.
Okay. Juju?
I am a determinist.
All right. DQ? All right, he's muted. All right. So for me, I guess I'm a compatibilist. DQ?
Like compatibilist, probably more than likely.
Mm-hmm. Brass. Okay, we'll come back. Serious B.
I lean towards compatibilism, right? Okay. And again, right? I kind of got the rug pulled from under me a bit, right? Mm-hmm. I learned that the reasons why I'm a compatibilist aren't necessarily sound, but I need to work on that, right? I need to work on that, you know. Okay. So yeah. I've got the right stance. I've got the right stance for the wrong reasons, right? So
because you can't be a compatibilist. Listen, you can't be a compatibilist without being a determinist.
Hey, here's the thing. That's why, right? Yeah, that's the middle ground.
Hey, our previous conversation, I was perfectly comfortable with saying, hey, I'm a compatibilist for completely pragmatic and practical reasons, right? Because I need to be able to lock people up. I need to be able to punish people who do this. We need to have reward systems. Is that misguided?
You still do, though.
Maybe I should think about that. You know,
you still do. Like you don't, like somebody with schizophrenia breaks their house and kills somebody. You don't just let them go back on the street. You like, no, we got to put you away, bro.
Like, we gotta get Brass in here. What you doing, Brass?
Good point.
I appreciate the question. Nothing happens in nature without causality, and even with conscious control, that even affects with causality, external factors, internal factors. So I'm a determinist until somebody shows me something without external, internal factors.
Oh, we got almost half and half. Okay.
Can I ask Ms. Tiffany, when you're done, I want to ask a question for Mongo, because I'm just curious what they have to say.
Hey, no one cares for my opinion.
That question.
Huh? Oh, yeah, I guess Sunchild opinion.
I didn't even know you were here.
Yeah, in a
you
minute.
can answer it, Sunchild. Go ahead, but it's just one or the other. It's not a dissertation. Just saying. Go ahead.
Not a dissertation.
Well, I certainly believe we have free will.
There we go. He believes in free will.
Can I just say something real quick? How
Hey
come
man,
no one
don't cut that man off, man. Why y'all cutting Sunchild off, man? Don't cut that man off, man. Let that man. Hey, come on, y'all. So what the hell's going on? Y'all cutting Sunchild off, man? You know he got something.
Why you cutting him off? Right? Why are you cutting him off?
I ain't cut him off. Y'all cut that man. He trying. You see, he trying to talk. Man, he want to ask a question. He really want to talk about Black Egypt.
And he better hurry up.
You can give the answer. He stands with free will. Okay.
Stands with free will.
Let's beat him. Let's beat him upside the head with this predictability thing, right? Exactly.
Hold on. Let me ask you guys a question.
Let's talk about this predictability thing.
Bet you $5 he don't stay on point. Get him.
All right, who's gonna do the timer? I'm gonna do the timer.
I asked about the double slit experiment.
I just want to see how long it was going to take him to say gonna slap me, because everybody want to slap me these days when I'm having fun. Let me shut up. Let me mute out.
Okay. How is it possible?
No.
Juju, let him answer. Let him finish his statement. You can't.
No, I had a question. He answered.
But you gonna get to. But we asked him to make a statement. Let him finish it, then go.
Bro.
Yeah, don't cut that man off, Juju. Let that man talk.
Because we're not gonna be rude to him.
Okay. How is it possible?
Yeah, y'all make sure y'all don't cut that man off, yo. You know he's gonna have a good, well-formed question.
Come on, let's get it. Come on, son.
How is it possible in a debate on free will and determinism that we haven't mentioned the double slit experiment, which allegedly disproves determinism? Why no mention of the double slit experiment? Can I please get your ideas on the double slit experiment?
Can I answer
that?
I
was next, but
you say that? That's a good question, Logic.
No, can I
hurry up so I can ask my question?
You might have
lost. It doesn't disprove determinism. Only thing it does is it challenges a deterministic view in physics, but it doesn't disprove it. It's just a challenge. It's not a disproval. So that's why it's not a. I can understand you saying people need to bring it up, but it doesn't disprove it. It just opens alternative interpretations of how the universe operates at a front. It offers alternatives to how the universe operates.
No,
it's Juju's turn. It's Juju's turn, Sunchild.
Come on, help us out, Brendan. Seriously,
we have to pull that thread. That's a completely Let's let Juju go because
come on, yo.
We'll come back to that. Let's put a pin in that. Yeah.
The question I have was on behalf of Mongo, because even though I'm sure Miss Tiffany answered it correctly, I'm curious what they have to say on top of it. But we were having a conversation about free will, and he was saying, since we had this debate, how is it that neither one of you ever brung up God in this discussion? That's simple.
We're both naturalists. That's easy.
Well, there you have it.
Both atheists, both naturalists.
Did you want to answer that, Marcus? Still, I would just want y'all to speak for yourself still, but I'm sure it'll be the same.
We only got one person not an atheist around here.
Marcus, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. It's not necessary. We ain't got to get into all that. You can hold a conversation without it, but even if you did, they still hold that conversation, because the question would be for questions like, okay, even if that did exist to a degree, and let's say you say, okay, well, God gives you a soul, that still isn't free will. That still doesn't equate to it. And even when you talk about statisticism and things like that, randomness, that still isn't free will. You don't control the random happenings. So either which way you look at it, that posable question is still invalid. So even if you were a libertarian, they have a much harder job proving that randomness has some type of control factor. You have some type of control factor over randomness.
And my thing with this particular conversation is that on either end of the spectrum, one could make a quote unquote religious argument. Yep, because I'd
like to suggest, man, at some time in the near future, that we have a free will discussion with ChatGPT live on air. And I think the way ChatGPT breaks down a lot of these questions will really surprise you. ChatGPT actually made my argument more difficult than everything I read. For real.
I told you, I was the one that told you put it in ChatGPT. I told you to put in how to debate compatibilism in ChatGPT, and you stayed along the line. I said, what do they do? Argue moral responsibility. Redefine the definition of free will. It tells you like how to maneuver around it. But
I mean,
part of it was redefining the definition of free will. You have to redefine the definition of free will.
What does the uncertainty principle actually mean for determinism? What does it mean towards compatibilism? Like when we asking ChatGPT questions like that, I think it's very telling about some of the words that we are forced to use inside of the free will conversation versus what science would use when they are describing some of these processes and systems. And I think I thought it was pretty revealing to me. I think that'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah, because when you're talking about like shoehorning concepts like the uncertainty principle into a philosophical conversation like this, right? You're gonna have to back up and say, okay, well, what are the scientists saying when they talk about the uncertainty principle, right? You have to go back to the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and how do we actually calculate it? We have to talk about wave particle duality.
Shit gets crazy.
These are things, quantum superposition, right? These are things that are easily measured. These are things that we can actually see within the quantum world, right? And one of the interesting things about quantum mechanics is that it's one of the most obscure and difficult pieces of science, but it is one of the pieces of science that we have the most accurate precision in terms of we know that it's real because we have formulas that we can prove, right? That's how we can do quantum supercomputing, right? That's one of the reasons why we understand it at a very, very minute level. We understand that it's real, but I don't think any of those concepts, when you dig into them, right? When you talk about what Niels Bohr and Einstein talked about, right? About the nature of the quantum world, it has very little to do with what we're talking about free will and all these things, right? So I don't see it. Yeah, moral responsibility. Right. It's very disconnected.
Yeah, it would be more in line with the brain. How does it align with your brain as a predictive model?
Those things, right? And the only thread that I could even pull, right, is this whole idea about the consciousness, right? People, I think there's a lot of confusion when we talk about, the observer effect, right? Which is a horrible name for when we talk about, wave particle duality and the double slit experiment. And when we say, the wave particle duality of light, right, is impacted by the observer effect, right? The observer isn't like Brendan looking at it, right? That's not what it is, right? The observer is a tool observing and impacting the quantum system, right? The observer is something you're shining a photon, you're shining a light on something. To see something, you got to shine a light on it. You have to impact it. There's no way to observe something without impacting it in some way or interacting with it in some way, right? And when you're talking about a photon, when you're interacting with a photon, it's very easy to disrupt a quantum system due to that interaction. And that is the observer effect that they talk about with the double slit experiment. Right?
Man, thought it was me.
Yeah. Remember, might I add, I say you can easily test the observer, the double slit experiment at your house if you want to, right? Just make sure you put on some goggles.
You ever seen the one where it was goggles, like, right? If you put a right glove in one box and a left glove in another box, right? And you send the boxes off, and they send like once one opens the box, the minute he interacts and he sees that it's the right glove, then at the same time you know that the other one is a left glove.
In the quantum world, it even goes a step even further. It says that the glove is both a right and a left glove.
Yeah, but once he
simultaneously
at the same time, but once he opens the box, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that is the instantaneous period when it becomes
right.
You know, it loses its quantum superposition and then it's definite. Right.
Exactly.
Very, very bizarre.
Yeah.
Right. But
it's a good
it's something that's real and something that we know that is true.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So why should the behavior of a particle or wave change based on an observer? Are you saying there is no observer? What are you saying?
Observer.
Why does the behavior change?
Again, I think we're getting sidetracked, right? We talked. We just explained that. I don't know if you heard it.
Yeah, he said did you hear it? Instrument is observing.
Yeah. Let's stay on track.
Yeah,
let's stay on track.
What do you mean instrument?
I didn't think you would get that.
What's the difference between an instrument as an observer and a person as an observer? What's the difference?
It's not the observer. He just said it's the light. It's impact. It's the
quantum world, bro.
It's the impact of whatever you're doing. Like for instance, if I'm actually taking a look at something, I'm observing something in a microscope, right? I have to impact whatever I'm looking at, right? I'm actually shining light. I have to turn on a light in the room to see what I'm looking at. Hold on. Do you want the explanation or do you not?
He don't want no explanation.
Right?
But there is no interference.
No. Be very careful, right? Because what we're talking about is at the quantum level, right? If you're observing a quantum system, right? If you shine a light on a photon, if you hit a photon,
there was no light from the observer. There was no light, and there was no interference.
Sunshine, I'm telling you now, I'm almost on your side.
So you are misrepresenting the experiment.
They actually do call it quantum interference.
You got it wrong.
Do you know?
No, I'm not familiar with quantum interference.
Because you mentioned the observer effect, right? And the observer effect, right, is something that we can demonstrate in wave particle duality, right? That's something that we can demonstrate.
So you're saying it's not just simply the observer that changed the behavior. There was what's called a quantum interference in the double slit experiment, and not simply the observer. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely, we didn't just think about it, and your mind isn't doing it. Let's just say that your mind isn't doing it.
I have a question for Marcus.
We're done. Let's not go any further.
Come on,
let's not. That's a different show.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think you're misrepresenting.
Hold on, Sunchild. Hold on. I have a question for Marcus. I don't want to say the other name incorrectly. I'm gonna need to practice it.
Don't worry about it.
When you were mentioning about the definition of free will and philosophers conveniently changing it to fit this new paradigm or whatnot, my thing is throughout time, many terms get redefined and revamped to fit a current and more updated understanding, right? So why should the terminology free will be absent from that?
It's because they're only trying to do it so they can hold on to moral responsibility. When definitions change, that's what they say. When definitions change, the way you're referring to it, new scientific information comes out, and based on that, that's what happens. But in this case, that's not what they're doing. In this case, they're saying, I'm changing the definition because I want to hold on to moral responsibility.
Well, it's a philosophical conversation, so if you can do that, just like today when you ask what is a man and what is a woman, it's not the same thing as it was 50 years ago. It doesn't necessarily need science to quote unquote science to verify that. It's just the times that we live in. It's just a different time than 50 years ago, when people have their own definitions for what a woman and a man is.
How is a man
You can
he's
hold.
The one who said they use science to change definitions. That's not always true. It's not.
Well,
it's not always true.
I also said that there's a social reality implied in that too. So socially, we've done that, but through biology, that hasn't changed. It's still XX and XY. They add other mechanisms involved in it to give you some parameters that is not as simple as XX and XY. But when we talk about things like that, that's a social reality that's implied. So, but in biology, I haven't seen any evidence that says there's no more than male and female. I haven't seen that yet. But socially, right. But here's we're socially. We talking about socially. And I explained that in social responsibility versus causal responsibility, I clearly said that was a part of the conversation. But that doesn't change the earth rotating. And so the neurologists, psychologists and them, the evolutionary biologists saying, yes, we understand the implications, but based on this information we have now, we cannot support that claim any longer. And the philosophers are saying, we don't want y'all to even get involved in this conversation. Leave it alone.
Okay, so but when this concept of free will came into being, I guess during the time of Aristotle, am I correct?
Yeah.
They didn't use no science. They didn't use no science to come up with that. This is what I'm saying. So it's always been a social. It's always been a social thing. So you don't need science.
Religion predates Aristotle.
Okay, well, my point is you don't need science you don't need in any event, you don't need science to change to justify people updating the definition of free will to fit the times. You don't need science.
So hold on.
Reality, yeah.
So there is
a social thing, right? It's philosophical. Go ahead.
There is a field called neurophilosophy, which does exactly that. So to say that that's not a field in science, that wouldn't be true. So they actually do. And I talked about the demarcation line between philosophy and science. And so inside of I didn't get a chance to share one of the slides which breaks down the philosophy of science versus philosophy, right? Because the philosophy of science is quite different than just regular philosophy. And science should be able to weigh in on social things. I don't see why we would say that they shouldn't be able to weigh in on those things.
I never said they shouldn't.
All right, so then if they weighing in on it, and some of us are saying that this isn't true anymore, what's the problem with that?
I just don't think that was a fair thing to bring into the argument. That the definition of it is they're changing it because they want to hold on to what moral responsibility.
But that's what they say, Miss Tiff. There's
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with terminology being updated to fit the time.
No, but because it's not to fit but see, that's the problem. You keep saying to fit the time, Miss Tiff. That ain't what they're doing. They're holding on to something that they thought that they brought with them from that equated time. They're not changing because of the time. They're saying no. They're like super conservatives do. Don't change anything. Leave it alone. That's what they're saying, Miss Tiff. Like that's their argument.
All of the philosophers are not aligning free will, as it were, to a soul and to a God. All of them are not doing that.
So again, Ms. Tiff, I understand the complications, but the bottom line is the compatibilists are openly telling you why they're standing the way they're standing. Like it's not even a question of why they're doing it. They come out and say, listen, I don't want society to get rid. Matter of fact, let me tell you what Dan Dennett said. He's one of the leading compatibilists, Daniel Dennett. This is what he said, right? Neurologists, physics, psychologists are trying to deconstruct society. Everything we know about is based on human agency. And to say that it isn't real is too dangerous. That's what his argument is. That's what he said. Right. Yeah, so it's not even about being true or not. It's not even being objective. They're saying it's irrelevant that if you say it's objective or not, we still don't want to tell people.
Society can't handle is what they're saying. Even when you look into ChatGPT and you ask how to argue it, they explain it to you to argue it in that manner. That's how they tell you, redefine free will and argue for more responsibility. That's what they all do. That's how you do it.
Which brings me to my next
and hold on. And I explained to you I actually told you the type of argument they did and why they did it. It's called a transcendental argument. And it's in there, they tell you the way you prove against a skeptic, especially a scientific skeptic, is very simple. You put you say this causes love. Let's say we use love as a social, and then the skeptic will say, we don't believe that what you saying causes love exists. And then you don't argue that part. You just argue that love exists. And they literally did it for human cognition. The man who created the thing was Immanuel Kant. He literally did it so that skeptics can't argue against moral responsibility and free will. Like, that's exactly why he created this type of argument. So it's not like anybody's guessing about what they're doing. Like, they openly telling you this is why we did it.
Yeah, but you, and I want to move on, but you made a point to bring that up in the debate, and I don't know, I just didn't think that was relevant because it happens across in other spaces. And my last point is y'all talk about making the world a better place and how determinism somehow can make a world a better place because people will realize that everyone doesn't have the same opportunities. And so society will then put in programs or things in place to make, things a little bit more equal. Well, I have for you DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is failing. It is failing because that initiative does not change the hearts of man. So where they were thinking about, we want more people, we want other people besides the white straight male to have the first dibs and the most dibs in the, the corporate spaces. So we're going to do this DEI so that everybody except for them can have a little bit more of the market share when it comes to getting these jobs. Well, it's failing. But so the initiatives in and of themselves are not going to change the hearts of men to be quote unquote fair to people who usually are at a disadvantage.
It's not about changing the hearts of men. It's about fairness is fair whether to change the hearts of people or not. What determinants are arguing is no different than what we understand now with the brain and Maslin and how your frontal lobe matures at a certain point. So we no longer execute teens. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter how you feel about that.
Okay.
Right? It doesn't change the mind, but it changed the law because we understand that we can't do that anymore. So when you learn some of the social implications, like right now they understand the effects of drugs.
No, let's stay in the job. Let's stay in that, Sosa, because remember we had affirmative action was put into law.
Even if what you're saying is true about affirmative action, it does not negate the point.
They got rid of it. Didn't the Supreme Court just rule that?
Supreme Court got rid of abortion. People do what they do because we're in a society that moves more along social lines than scientific lines. So that's irrelevant.
Okay, so but okay, yeah, it's irrelevant until we ask, well, how is determinism going to make the world a better place?
Yeah, I can't. But we're not saying that determinism is going to make people pro-choice. You know what I'm saying? Because we still live in a social society. Still going to be Republicans. There's still going to be Democrats. There's still going to be atheists. There's still going to be religious people and Muslims. Like it. You know what I'm saying? We're only talking about in terms of the hard stuff, biology, science, law. You know what I'm saying? Things that we can impact in that manner. It's not going to be 100%. We're not saying it's going to hit the sweet spot. Nothing ever will.
Made my point. I'm going on mute.
I want to pull a thread though. because I think Marcus, you went on the attack just now, and this was on outlined in one of your. This is your major point number 2 when you put your argument forward on paper. And I wish you would have did this during the debate as well. But what you just did, I'm gonna show you what you just did. You talked about. Remember, I asked the question about the fallaciousness of the compatibilist argument, right? And you said that philosophers must use anti-skeptical justifications to allude to freedom, right? This is again, Marcus is putting his stomp down, saying that logic, you're making a fallacious argument, right? This is to you, right? Logic. What do you say when Marcus says things like this, right? He's pigeonholing you into these fallacious, anti-skeptical justifications, right? He's saying that you're basically relying on conjecture. You're being very subjective in your argumentation. What do you say when they say that?
So the best argument I've heard towards that notion is P.F. Strawson, who isn't somebody who I put a lot of focus in during my argument, but he has an article called Freedom and Resentment. And basically what he's talking about is how much of this that we have to give up in order to adhere to determinism. Whereas I have to give Marcus some props in identifying that, yes, a large portion of the term of the compatibilist argument is trying to maintain some of the sentiments that they hold near and dear to them, some responsibility, and without having to tear down modern society. But there's the one thing that really stands out to me about what P.F. Strawson says is that we are so far along socially, right? Our emotions and our sentiments are interwoven into society. So how would you begin to unwind these sentiments, right? How would you then begin to reconstruct these emotional pathways that we have developed through this subjective construct that we call society? And I think that's a pretty valid question, right? Like, so now what do I do with that? Do I now when I see the guy who kills 50 people, do I now not have a justified emotion, especially if one of those people was somebody near and dear to me? You know what I'm saying? Like not necessarily that it's not subjective, but that it's just as real as the money I pay my bills with at this point. You know what I'm saying? How do I just throw that away? And especially behind a theory that you kind of, it's so big that it's so, that you may not ever be able to prove determinism. So in order to chase something that we can't necessarily quantify as real either, I'm going to throw away these subjective experiences that are very real based on just how we get along, our interpersonal relationships. And, the fact that I do feel wronged when somebody does XYZ to me. You know what I'm saying? Because that kind of drives what we would consider appropriate actions.
Let me ask you this, though. Let me ask you this. If you feel wrong when somebody does something to you, right? What determines how you respond? Whether you just laugh and walk away, whether you cuss him out, whether you punch him, whether you pick him off the ground and bash his head in. What determines that?
You're gonna boil it down to external stimuli,
right? Which is compatibilism or determinism.
Both.
Okay.
Compatibilism says.
Hold
Compatibilism.
Damn you, Sosa.
I mean, compatibilism says that inside of this deterministic framework, I do have enough freedom to be able to make choices, and my choices are free enough for me to be held responsible for my actions. So it is both. You certainly have not removed my ability. You certainly have not removed the fact that the person who hit me with the rock were aware of what they were doing.
How about this? In the court of law, right? In the court of law. Hold on, let me ask this before you go. In the court of law, even today, right? If let's say you walk in and you see your mate having sex with another man, if you kill him right then on the spot, your actions are not judged as harsh as if you leave and come back, because the argument is that the moment took you out of your normal state of being, and your action was impacted by external stimuli, external and internal stimuli. You feel me? So is that right? So in that view, is that deterministic or compatible in that viewpoint?
Wait, so I'm trying to get your example right. So are you saying that the sentiments that the man felt when he saw his wife having sex with another man, are you saying the way he felt about it was valid?
Valid or not, the way he felt about it is how he felt about it. But his rage, right? Even I'm just saying the court system even today looks at it differently, because they say even in this court, the free will construct we still live in today, the court says, well, we can judge him differently because the stimuli, the influence made him act in a way that he would not normally have.
Yeah, I think wouldn't be first degree, wouldn't be second degree, maybe manslaughter or something like that.
Right, they dial it down.
Lesser degree.
I think the more important question is that why is walking out of the room even an option for him?
Why is it an option?
Yeah. No, I mean, if he's completely under the spell of external stimuli, how could he gain enough control of himself to walk out?
Because past right, external, internal. You know what I'm saying? His temperament, his rationale may say, you know what?
His subjective
rationale. Kids are more important. If he has kids, I got a mom, you know, but I'm not going to throw my life away. Versus impulse control issues. My mother, his father caught his mom cheating on his dad cheating on her. You see what I'm saying? All those things come into play. You feel me? My household broke up because of this situation, because of infidelity. You see what I'm saying?
I feel you.
So let me
hold up, Marcus.
Let me clarify some things.
Let me finish answering this question right quick, because I thought I did a really good job of never excluding external factors and saying that they actually do play a major role in influencing your decisions, but they don't determine them, right? So when I asked you, how could he gain enough control over himself to not succumb to the rage, you basically are giving me the interpretation that he had enough cognitive control to walk out. He wasn't determined by his external factors. He was able to create a long-term goal, think about, weigh his options, and actually make a decision. He wasn't determined. He wasn't determined to go ahead and kill the person right then and there. He had some sort of control to walk out, whether he come back or not. I mean, I get what you're saying, but there seems to be an option on the table just based on the analogy that you gave me.
Go ahead, Mark.
So Strawson is a prime example in his freedom and resentment paper of a transcendental argument. So he actually makes the transcendental argument in that paper. Like, that's exactly what he's doing.
I don't disagree.
And then he goes on And then he goes on to the slippery slope, saying that if this be true, then all this other stuff we got to get rid of with no substantial proof from it. And I need y'all to know that transcendental arguments do not need any empirical data. So they're not concerned about whether what they're saying is aligned up with the rest of science at all. Like they openly tell you that it is irrelevant to them. So this ends up coming to a head at the problem. But here's a piece that I think people missed or are missing, right? The prefrontal cortex and executive function that the brain does, you aren't in control of that. Like the development, the stages that it goes through, you have absolutely no control over. So the prior events of your life help shape your prefrontal cortex. The cultural environment you're in helps shape your frontal cortex. So when it's time for you as a whole entity, a brain inside of a skull, inside of a body, when that brain does its computations, you don't have any control over any of that. And it's two fascinating cases that really make points for that. One is about a tribe who only has numbers 1 to 3, right? And they don't have any numbering system above that. It goes 1, 2, 3, many. And then there's another case off of the Polynesian island, which they talk about, which is one was controlled by the French and the other was controlled by the British and America type of fluency in that environment. I can pull both cases up. I think they're in Robert Sapolsky's book, Behave. And with the people who didn't have any numbers, they are equivalent to mathematics of anybody else until they get to number 4. They have no conceptualization of it, right? And in the islands one, it was about alcoholism. Because French, their perceptions of culture is different. You can actually see the difference in how drunks behave based on the culture influence. And so I think what happens is in this conversation is people sometimes miss how much culture plays a part in how you think you're going to behave, and the even when it comes to your logic ability and reasoning, right? So with the first case, they couldn't reason or use logic above 3 because they had no concept of it. That's a cultural thing, right? Up until that point, from 1 to 3, they were fully functional, no different than any other human being. And so these are some of the things that we haven't even got to yet, right? We got to examine what that means, right? So when we say I'm making a decision, all those things that form that prefrontal cortex and the executive function is what is making that decision. That's what shaped that. And so that's what they mean when they talk about it. And we keep thinking that determinists say that you don't make a decision. No, they don't say that you don't make a decision. They say that the decision that you think you're making has been determined by all those prior factors that shape the brain that you got. The mechanisms that are used for you to perceive a decision is shaped by the prior events. That's the argument. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why the explanation about that's why, I brought up the man cheating on his wife. It's the whole, well, what are the external factors? He come home from work, he just lost his job, they find his wife cheating on him. That's one stimuli. He was raised in a household that ended in divorce because his mom left his dad, or his dad left his mom because of infidelity. It's another stimuli. He lost both his parents when he was young, and he was raised by his auntie, and he always wanted to have a family, and the idea of not having a family was too much. You know what I'm saying? Those are all driving influence and stimuli that that you can't, that is happening, that's pushing a person to make a choice that you think that you're controlling, but it's actually being controlled by past and present experiences.
If I can just say something before I go, I think we have to have a honest discussion about determinism and free will, especially as I noticed with the discussion we had about the double slit experiment. There was some misrepresentation of that experiment based on what
Brendan
we
get
already
you the
mentioned
quantum.
is, was
Don't let Brendan
quantum.
get you.
Let me just finish, if I may, with quantum interference. There was no interference between the observer and the particles. It was observed that the particles interfered with each other under observation. So there was no interference by the observer at all. That's a misrepresentation. We have to be honest about the experiment and what actually took place. And it seems like there's a bias towards determinism, and we're deciding on our own not to even mention it or to misrepresent it in order to prove ourselves right. Ourselves in this case is you all. And I think unless you all, when you all are ready to have an honest discussion about things,
all of us are not that.
Well, you're all determinists. Even if you're compatibilist, you're still a determinist. You're just another form of a determinist. And I think if you're being honest with yourselves, I respect this. I respect the hard determinist more than a compatibilist, because you're just not willing to go all out and say what the determinist is saying. You do not have free will. What you're doing is let me finish. Well, if I could just finish first, and I'm not sure if I have a question more than I have a comment I'm making, that we have to be honest about that experiment. And you've misrepresented the experiment to say there was an interference between the observer. Now you're saying, now you're going to take that to say that even we would change our behavior based on the fact that we're being watched unknowingly, and that's not been proven.
What?
Allow
for response.
Yeah, let me just say this in terms of the whole idea, where we're bringing the quantum mechanics into this conversation, right? Yes, we know that the universe is fundamentally non-deterministic at the quantum level, right? But that is yet to be determined if that has any influence in terms of impact, in terms of decision making, and our actions in the macro world, right? In terms of the conversation that we're having today, right? I think no. You talked. You had a chance to make your argument, and let me make mine, right? And I think that's one of the fundamental flaws that we end up having when we talk about quantum mechanics, is that we a lot of lay people, right? We take a look at these very strange and very odd phenomena that are happening at these non-deterministic things that are happening at the quantum world, in the quantum level, and we bring that forward into the macro world and say that those particular phenomena are governing what's happening at the macro world. And that is something that you can't substantiate, and you have to be very careful with that. What we're talking about, hold on. What we're talking about, we're talking about determinism, but determinism at the macro world. We're not in the quantum realm or any of those particular things, right? Because you have no evidence in terms of what you're saying, right, that the quantum world has any impact in terms of decision making and action and cognition and the macro world, right? You have no evidence of that. So we have to be careful with it.
Okay, so now the conversation has changed. Now you are acknowledging.
What I'm saying is that what you're saying is irrelevant. That's what I'm saying.
But you are acknowledging that the double slit experiment does say that the quantum level is in fact undeterministic and not deterministic. You are acknowledging that, and you just said that, right?
Yeah.
So now you're saying
no. I don't move. I don't move. Right. I mentioned the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. What does uncertainty mean?
He said that in the beginning. He said that I don't think
what does that mean?
Idea for the conversation that we're having. Right? We said,
but this is that's a different conversation. and what you're applying, you can't apply that to the macro world in terms of decision making and cognition. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Okay. You don't have any evidence of that.
Can I say something to you, Sunchild? Sunchild, before you ask the question. No, before you ask the question, let me say something. I know y'all went all the way around and did all of this, conversation. I appreciate the conversation, but I literally said almost an hour ago, it doesn't dispute it. It just introduces a challenge to deterministic views of the universe, not necessarily the conversation we have. So I know everybody is saying, literally that, but I told you that before. That's why I didn't want to bring it up, because that would literally be its own show and take away from the conversation that we have. That's all I was trying to say an hour and 30 minutes ago.
I understand.
Let me say something right quick, before Sunchild take over the show right quick.
And he said Logic is a coward.
What do you say? Wait, what do you say?
You ain't 10 toes down like a determinist. He don't respect you.
So
somebody he just called Logic a coward?
No, he didn't call him a coward. Basically, he said he just said he respected determinists more. He said the compatibilists ain't willing to go all the way in. They just have.
Yeah, I ain't tripping. Oh, so look, if I'm not mistaken, the definition of determinism does not start and stop at human behavior. As a matter of fact, it says all events in the universe are deterministic. So with that being said, in order for determinism to be true, then you would have to have deterministic factors everywhere, and subatomic particles would include that, if I'm not mistaken. Now, with that being said, Brendan is also right when you said you can't draw a direct line from how that plays into human behavior, which I would say is also true, which is what
you're contradicting yourself.
Really, just let me talk, yo. So really, what I would like to be able to do, right, is just stick to exactly what the experts say, right? And compatibilism doesn't really allow me to do that. I'm a little bit out of my comfort zone in my wheelhouse. I'm kind of like, I wanted to be able to do the debate because, we had gone through this for so long, but it was like the more and more information I gathered, that's what I meant when I said it was harder and harder and harder for me to hold this position, right? Because the way science describes it is that they would describe that there are deterministic and indeterministic processes working together. Right now, maybe that makes me not a compatibilist. Maybe that takes me out of talking about philosophy.
Please don't do that.
But look, I'm all right, Joe.
Yeah,
I'm trying to keep it honest, yo. Like it's not even necessarily about winning. I thought we was moving forward.
But don't change the premise.
We already had the debate. The debate's over.
We just did a 4.5-hour debate on compatibilism versus determinism. You're on the compatibilist side, and now you're saying you're not even you're not even sure if you're a compatibilist or not.
He's not, but that's another.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. We're trying to stay away from that. Like when we're talking about, listen, I understand, Sunchild, just to put a pin in it. I understand how the double slit, right? There's no complete state, so you got the uncertainty principle, and you can never fully know the state of a quantum system, so that throws out classical determinism. I get all of that, but you cannot state that and then directly go straight to, and then you can't make any decisions because we never know the state. It's just too far of a link, if you understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. I get exactly what you're saying. It's just it doesn't match the conversation that we're having tonight, which would be its own show. So we're kind of trying to stay on point. You're not wrong, bro. I think it's an excellent question to offer, but you're just not going to get what you want, no matter how many questions you ask in regards to that particular experiment, trying to mix the quantum with that. They haven't gotten there, but they definitely have gotten there.
His conversation is about the fundamental non-deterministic nature of the universe,
right?
Not about free will. It's not a free will conversation.
Well, isn't non-deterministic? Isn't that the same as free will?
No, not at all. No.
What is the difference between non-deterministic and free will?
Those are two completely different concepts.
How are they different?
No. He's
that's
like,
what I see. This is why.
I'm not doing it. Yeah.
Exactly, it's a rabbit hole. Sunchild, listen, I understand what you're doing, and I applaud you. I'm just trying to say, and that's why I tried to put a pin in your conversation before. If you want to do a separate show and have that conversation, we can go down that route. I'm just trying to tell you the conversation we're having is hard determinism versus compatibilism. And the double slit experiment, while it does challenge, or actually based on the uncertainty principle, which I've read too much about, and I didn't really even care to read about it, but duty and a certain uncertainty principle, there's no set state. So I get what you're saying, but please get what we're saying. It doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah, being that you're not a compatibilist or a determinist, then what are you, Sunshine?
Right, and you're definitely not a photon. You're definitely not a photon.
What's your position, Sunshine?
Well, my position is that I am essentially me in myself. Essentially, I am made up of quantum particles and or waves. Essentially, this is what the universe is made up, including all matter. I don't know what the name is for it, but I do believe that we have free will, whatever you want to call it. I would call it a non-determinist, but apparently that's not the same thing as a free agent of free will
at all.
No, not to the level that you guys are taking it. No,
I say to the level.
I believe that essentially we do have free will, and we are able to make decisions on our own. We don't. It's not based
independently of environment.
Yes, I believe that is true biologically, physically, socially, and morally. It has to be true.
So
without that,
you don't believe in cause and effect.
I do believe in cause and effect. I believe that our decisions create cause and effects as well. But I do not necessarily believe you have to remove free will from the paradigm of cause and effect.
Is your decision a byproduct of cause and effect?
Are my decisions a byproduct of cause and effect? Not necessarily. I believe they are decisions of the cause and effect of my own, inner workings of my own mind and my own thoughts.
If you're making
my thoughts create my decisions.
If you're making a decision, or you're in a position where you have to make a decision, and there's a cause for you making a decision, you're at a fork in the road. You have to go left or right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So there's a cause.
Well, yes, there are causes. Like I said, they are the cause of my decision are my rational thoughts.
True.
But like, okay, so Sunchild, just to address your question, the non-determinism and free will, they're related, but they're not the same. They're related. I get where you're going. Like, you're playing. Listen, this is what you do. Other people do. They tend to do. They agree. It's like two circles put together, and they overlap each other. And you're trying to argue that little piece where the circles overlap, but that doesn't make them the same, right? Just because things aren't. Listen.
Inflation.
Let me finish
it's
talking.
Inflation.
Let me finish talking.
Inflating arguments.
Yeah, like just because things aren't predetermined, it doesn't automatically mean that we have free will. Like, there's more to it. Like being able to make choices without any outside control. So while they're related, the concepts of them are related, they are most certainly not the same. Non-determinism, if you think of non-determinism is like opening the door for free will, like it suggests we're not following a script, giving us room to make our own choices. But just because things aren't predetermined, it doesn't actually mean that we have free will. So even non-determinism and free will, relation, not the same. Not the same.
Yeah, you're about a good 30% correct, but you're not wrong. But you're not you're not drawing a straight line to. Free will.
Brendan said the word. He's conflating. It's a conflation.
You're conflating for
sure. And I'm quite sure he does. I'm quite sure, Sunchild, you do agree as well that you don't exist in a state of quantum superposition. You, Sunchild, the man, Sunchild, does not exist in a quantum state of superposition, right?
When you say superposition, what does that mean?
Oh my God!
He's about to go down another rabbit hole. This is why I was trying to stop, bro. This is where I have to go down. It's a rabbit hole.
You don't even got the fundamentals of what he's trying to say.
What is that? Are you 5 years old? Are you 5? Well, what is that? Well, what?
Somebody let Marcus in.
He's trying to pretend like he got a high level understanding of it, and he don't even got the fundamentals down. That's crazy.
Well, I'll just say that you guys have
I
said to
agree
me
with you, though.
that non-determinism is not the same as free will. You just simply haven't explained to me how they're different. You've only made it a matter of
Wait,
fact
did you not
statement.
hear what I just said?
I did hear what you just said, and I heard you say was they are different, but
No,
you
I
have
didn't.
not explained to me how they are different.
I'm gonna answer your question directly. Non-determinism isn't the same as free will. Non-determinism means not everything is preset by past events. It's like saying like some things just happen without a fixed cause. Free will is about making your own choices, like choosing whatever movie to watch. So non-determinism can make room for free will, but they're not the same thing. That's an explanation. That's an explanation. I don't have to say anything else. That's an explanation.
Is that your definition, or is that a scientific definition?
Oh, man.
That's it, yo. Stop
Is
fighting.
that your definition of not? Is that his definition of not? Where did you get that definition of non-determinism?
I'm not going to insult you. Listen, here's another thing about compatibilism, and another thing in this philosophical conversation. The one thing I do know from listening to Marcus and Logic, probably way too long and way too much. If you play with the definition of any word, any conversation could be valid. So at some point, I'm just saying my stance on why they're not the same. If you have a different stance or somebody else, because y'all want to change the definition, I stated my case. That's my premise. That's it. For me, other people, I don't play with the definitions because logic, I understand a compatibilist view. They have to get a very specific definition of free will. So I understand that, right? That's actually part of the argument of what is exactly free will based on the conversation. I get that. I answered your question. You said all I said was no. I just gave you 2 examples. That's where I'm at, bro. I'm not going to go back with definitions because then we go down rabbit holes. And I don't want to do that with you, Sunchild.
Right, and it's going to come down to your definition of non-determinism versus my definition of non-determinism.
Okay, no problem.
And I asked you if you have a scientific definition for non-determinism that we can both come to, and you said no. So it's going to come down to your definition versus mine. Okay. And as far as I can tell, there's a gap between determinism and free will. So for me, non-determinism and free will.
It's not indeterminism. That's
okay. I can live with that, Sunchild. If we die in the gray area, then hopefully Kang can get us out of the multiverse and we could, save Jonathan Majors. I don't know. I'm not the definition. This isn't our first conversation. This is just our first public high level conversation on YouTube. The definition, the conversations that we have in the Discord between Logic, Marcus, and the rest of us, they all came down to moral responsibility and the definition of free will. So this isn't our first rodeo with this. That's why I don't want to do this conversation with you because we've done this already for months. And then let Brendan say it. I only been in the Pseudo Killer Discord for 3 or 4 months. They've been having this conversation since 2022. I'm just not going to continue just arguing or debating over the definition. That's why I'm not discounting your position. You can believe, think, feel however it is that you want to feel, be. I don't challenge you on that. That's why I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just telling you from my perspective of what I believe free will and non-determinism is. That's my premise.
Okay, and I'll just say one thing finally, if I may. That it seems as if you guys have drawn the conclusion that free will is out. There is no free will. There's only compatibilism or determinism, and there is no free will.
No, that's not.
But it seems to me like you're keeping free will itself out of the debate. And that's why we haven't heard about. We haven't heard a side for free will.
I get you. But this
if I could just finish.
Let me say something before you go forward because I won't acquiesce to a faulty premise. When you say that you say things a lot of times, even in the chat as I was watching, y'all say the pseudo killers y'all speaking these absolutes as if y'all know every pseudo killer and every person participating in the Discord. We have dualists in the conversation. We have people that stay out of the conversation. The debate that you saw tonight just so happened to be hard determinism versus compatibilism, but we most certainly have other people. We're trying to give you an insight into how we discuss, but we are not a monolith. Everybody in the Discord, as you can see, even amongst ourselves, we don't always agree. So don't say that we're trying to force, or we're all saying that it's one or the other. There's 1,000 positions. It's a philosophical conversation. So you're more than you can have whatever view, but don't say the pseudo killers are trying to make it either hard determinism or compatibilism. No, that's just the high level conversation that we had tonight judged. So while everybody, and this I'm gonna land on my plane. So while you're doing that, I don't want you to take away, and I'm not upset with you, but I don't want you to take away from the beauty of the high level conversation. We allowed y'all to see a private look into what we do. So don't do that where we're just saying that, because that's how you get shows where everybody's saying we're just all of a sudden discussing this, or we're just making this up. That's not what we're doing.
Okay, well then I'll change it and say I hope that you will leave room for the other side to present as well the idea that there is still free will and not simply be dismissed. And I think that there is science.
Compatibilism does.
That's compatible.
Why you did tonight?
No.
You know compatibilism.
Did you watch the debate? Did you watch the debate?
That's literally what we did in the debate. We allowed.
I think you may have missed the debate.
We wouldn't even be debating if he wasn't making room for goddamn free will.
No, but they are both deterministic viewpoints. Compatibilism is a form of determinism. And what I'm saying is you have to give another argument besides determinism and aspects of determinism. Okay, then I'll change that again. I say perhaps you should consider giving all sides of the argument a fair shake.
So you want us to have a dualism in a 3-hour debate? You want us to discuss dualism, compatibilism, fatalism, doomerism? Like, no, this particular debate, right? That's like saying when they have debates on other channels, on other shows, you going to Ravens versus the 49ers, and you're just coming in saying, well, don't forget about the Lions and the... No, that's just not what we're talking about right now. Right now, in this space, we're talking about hard determinism versus compatibilism. That's why we didn't want to necessarily bring up the double slit experiment. Not that it's not a valid conversation. It's just it doesn't match what we're talking about right now. We're trying to stay to the point at 12:30 Eastern time. So it's not, you're not invalid, bro. This isn't one of them shows. We're not laughing at you or ridiculing you. We just want to stay to the point.
Okay, and I'll leave it at that then and let you guys carry on. I appreciate the time. Hope I wasn't too disruptive. One love, peace, y'all.
Yep.
For sure.
I apologize, y'all. I ain't trying to take over.
It's good. It was all good. It was because like sometimes it can be stressful, but sometimes you need somebody like that to allow you to explain.
Yeah, let him get it off. I agree.
The shit, you know what I mean? To explain something, because at the end of that, he's like, "I wish y'all leave a little room for free will." Like, nigga, that's what Logic was doing.
Yeah, like, compatibilism is
left the entire door open for it.
And that's why I think a lot of times people don't realize in the conversation that we're having. And so you know what I'm about to say. I don't think compatibilists, even the people in the chat, are compatibilists. I think they're just philosophers, because they never realize that we're not, like, if you're arguing no free will and determinism, and you're trying to say we're not discussing determinism or we're not discussing no free will, that's literally covered by both isms of the debate. Literally.
Yeah. Sometimes the problem with me is too, like when I talk to people who is taking the position of a compatibilist, they're debating me on determinism. That's the perplexing part of it to me.
Yeah, when they believe in it.
Yeah, where it's like, you shouldn't be debating me on that part of it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? That's why I'm always confused. Like, why are you fighting me on determinism? You know what I'm saying? Like, we supposed to have equal ground right here. You know what I'm saying? Like, we supposed to be arguing over your part of it, not my part. Yeah. You agree with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, now prove your point. Prove your premise. Yeah. Tell me where the free... And see, until this day, part of my challenge with compatibilism is that I've shown you no free will, and you agree with no free will if you're a compatibilist. But you still have not shown me the nature, extent, location, where and when does the free will kick in this deterministic state of mind. When does the free will kick in? So I understand that there will be further discussion. I understand there's going to be further experiments, maybe newer technology to help us get there in regards to monitoring the brain, and then I may do it. But when you say nothing happens without causation in the in nature, and even under conscious control, that doesn't happen without causality either. Until you can remove the causality, and whatever you is that's outside of your brain, I said is on purpose, whatever you is outside of your brain makes a decision, and they can show that, then you got me. Until then, no free will.
yeah. Like I said, that's always the perplexing part to me. You know what I mean? So it's like, I get it. Like I said, it's hard because it's like,
it's hard because like what?
Hold on, you hear me? I'm moving around.
I hear you now.
It's like the conversation is being had outside of the relevant conversation about the 7.5 lessons about the brain. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
I agree.
It's like we're saying, okay, forget all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just throw all that shit, the brains are predictive, all that little blah 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 blah.
Yeah, it's
blah.
like the brain's a predictive model, whatever.
Blah 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 blah.
You turn left, you turn left, your brain did it before you did, whatever. Gut biome, whatever. Internal, external factors, whatever.
Brain in the black
box. And that goes back to some of the early conversations that we have on the pseudo killers about putting guardrails around the conversation.
Right.
If you don't have guardrails around the conversation, which what we just did, right, it can go anywhere. Right. We'll be all the way in a quantum rabbit hole.
Yes.
Right. If we didn't put those hard guardrails on the conversation. Right. Yo, what you mean determinism? Right. Yeah. Universe is fundamentally non-deterministic according to quantum mechanics. And yada 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 yada.
I did not think we'd get to the double slit experiment.
Yeah.
I had no idea we was
the first slide would have been double slit experiment debate over.
It was the word.
That's what it would have been.
The word determinism. Right, does it? Because here's the problem. It's the cross domain violation that I always talk about.
Yes.
You take a term from one field of science and you superimpose it and you throw it across the field and you use it in another and you think it means the same thing. When a philosopher talks about determinism and when a quantum physicist talks about determinism, right? They are talking about completely different things. You got to stop. They're talking about,
and the same goes for indeterminism. Completely different.
Yes, exactly. They're talking about different things.
Yeah. You got to stay away from that space because if that's the case, Logic's first slide could have been double slit experiment. I land my plane. It's not even relevant because then it's not. It is. I won't even say it's not relevant because that's not right. It is relevant in its context of that conversation, not in this one. Just not in this one. Because he literally believes the double slit experiment. His question, because he asked it during the debate, the double slit experiment. If the double slit experiment disproves determinism, then why haven't y'all brought it up?
Yeah, I just can't.
But it doesn't disprove philosophical determinism in terms of on that piece. At the macro level,
I can't let Lottie jump out the compatibilist car until all the votes are in.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to stay in this car, Lottie. We cannot let you. You can't get out now.
You know what? My integrity got to me right quick. But
you said my integrity got to me right quick. Lord, you won the people's poll as a compatibilist at 11:30. And before 12:30, you jumped out the car. I'm not a compatibilist.
Like,
I'm a new age compatible. I'm a new age compatibilist, yo.
Yeah, man. Well, right up. Hey. Then I'm like, get it peer reviewed, write a paper, submit it. If you created something, by all means, man. Right, but don't argue with us.
And again, Brad. So I keep making the distinction between the micro and the macro for a reason. Like for instance, if you deal with the field of chemistry, right? Within the field of chemistry, they deal with molecules, they deal with, you know, these chemical substances, and it's very predictable. The field of chemistry is one of the most predictable sort of sciences that we have, right? Because we can control chemicals on that level, right? Right. Even as small as those pieces are, we can control it. You know what I mean? So it's very deterministic in terms of the field of chemistry. And this is one of the pieces that Cedric kind of let me, you know, he kind of gave me some insight about, right? When you can control the variables within a particular experiment, right? When the non-deterministic nature of the universe, when you're talking about determinism, right, comes into play when you have so many variables that you can't necessarily calculate the outcome, right? They're not talking about, you know, at the quantum level where you cannot predict what will happen with a quantum system. That's not what they're saying. It's two different things, you know. So
I want to take a second and say DQ's son's birthday, because we had 12:30. I believe today is DQ's son's birthday, so I want to say happy birthday to the young.
Put your there. Little DQ Junior.
All right.
Appreciate that, y'all. Appreciate that.
Right, raising the young ones. How old is your son?
Hot Sauce Junior.
He turned 6.
Happy birthday, nephew.
Junior.
All right. He's a big boy now, right?
Yeah.
He growing up on me, man.
Yeah.
Better than growing down, I'll tell you that. Tell you that. So where we going, Sosa? This your boat. Where we going?
Shit, we rode the goddamn free will off to the goddamn.
What else?
I'm trying to fucking murder that.
What else?
He messed it up, man.
You say Logic?
I'm trying to mess it up.
He mad because he called you a coward, G. And you know what's funny, Logic? Coming from Sunchild saying that, I just thought that was not saying he literally called you a coward, but just to after 3, and this is to show you, bro, after 4 hours technically of the public debate, probably 10 hours of content publicly between the weigh-ins and this, for someone to literally boil your whole argument down to what he said, it just shows you, bro, a pseudo gonna be a pseudo, man.
Yeah, bro.
Pseudo's just pseudoing, man. It don't matter what you say. You can show high-level sources, QR codes, videos. It don't matter. It's gray like a bad day, no matter what.
It's a lot of work, right? A lot of people, you know, they don't understand what hard work is.
Yeah, some people are just
when you don't do hard work, you don't appreciate it, you know.
Some people are antagonists, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Certain individuals are just they're antagonists. Like, whatever position you take, they argue the opposite. Like
it's that
intellectual masturbation type thing, like, you know.
He's got a lot of definitions mixed up, and he's trying to cross definitions and feel like Brendan said, and he's just confused, and he would have to unconfuse himself.
That's what pseudo is, right?
So we can have the conversation to where it would start to make sense, right? Like the fact that he don't understand superposition, but you're talking about quantum indeterminacy, like you don't even know what you're talking about. You just saying words.
If you don't know what superposition is, and then you're talking about the fundamental uncertainty of the universe, then what are you saying to me?
Yeah, you have no foundation.
He has no clue what he's talking about.
But I'm gonna tell you what though, like I'm excited about the Egyptologist coming through though.
Yeah.
Is that what the lady is?
We pulled that out of the hat. So,
that's not the Egyptologist.
I think that's later. I think this lady is the partner with Rick Kittles. They do like genetics and genetic analysis and stuff like that. Yeah.
You know, because I'm reading Carl Hart book, High Price.
Mm-hmm.
And damn, that's a good book. Like, you know, some of the shit hit home because some of the shit he went through similar to my lifestyle. So it's like the shit is really hitting home. It's like, yo, I definitely want him on the show. You know what I'm saying? You know who he is, though, Brendan? We talked about him in the Discord. You familiar with Carl Hart?
I have to.
He's a Columbia professor that was microdosing heroin. He got a lot of work on drugs and the effects of drugs and stuff like that in society, and how you know, I mean, basically how we're using.
So he's a professor where?
Huh?
He's a professor where?
Columbia.
Oh,
I think I'll call hard because I'm reading his book, High Price, and then I'm reading his next book. I forgot the name of his next book.
A Higher Price.
Well, you know, one thing about academics is that they're not shy in terms of engaging serious study groups, and that's one of the things I think in this community that we need to do more of. We need to use our leverage to engage experts in this regard. But in terms of like the Egyptologists that we're going to engage, right? I think one of the reasons why we thought it was important to do it. We talked about this probably 6 months ago, and Brass, you know who we're talking about. This the Egyptologists. We talked about it in the Discord a while back, right? And I think one of the reasons why is because we kind of get confused in terms of we narrow down our arguments into these pigeonholed sort of echo chamber arguments that we have all the time, right? We never have these outside broader perspectives. One example is when we talk about Egypt as a Mediterranean culture, right? This doctor, the name of her department is the Penn State Department of Near East and Mediterranean Studies, right? Ancient Near East and Mediterranean Studies, right? Within the Department of Near East and Mediterranean Studies, guess what they have, right? They have an Egyptologist, right? They have an Egyptologist, right? They have professors and doctors who have expertise in ancient Rome, right? Ancient Roman culture, ancient Greek culture, right? Ancient Levantine culture, right? And all again, it's a very broad sort of a level of specializations that they have within that single department. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think again, and I think that's one of the interesting questions that we can have, right? But we're not doing this to settle any scores, for one, right? And that's one of the biggest things I always say, hey, if we're gonna bring in professionals, we're gonna ask really, really good questions, quality questions, and we're gonna have a quality conversation. We're not bringing professionals on to settle petty scores at all, because that's the reason why they don't like to engage communities like that, right? You know what I'm saying? So, but I think in terms of how we do it with the pseudo killers, we got a really good blueprint in terms of how we engage professionals on that level. So I think it'll be a quality conversation.
But the nature of how it's being even guided, especially where they are right now, they're trying to, even to the scientific community, narrow it down to show relationships to different ethnic groups. So, that conversation ain't outside the scope, you know what I'm saying? But as far as them being black or not, like, we don't need to do that. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need to get into the whole, where they black? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think I like what Ngozi was saying, like, we're not gonna be skinologists and shit. He's like, y'all skinologists. Right? Yeah, we're not gonna be skinologists. Right. You know what I'm saying?
I think questions regarding ethnic identity, those are fair game, right? But if you're asking real poignant questions, I think, Sosa, you're gonna get the answers you want. You know what I mean? You don't have to even go there.
Right.
So we'll, yeah.
Because with the Kara Cooney conversation, it just played out naturally without even this organic.
Right, exactly. So again, I think we've got our introductory conversation. Hopefully, we can have it with her tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll probably have the interview, the following week or the next, and then we'll air it, and then we'll have some discussions, right? So we'll see.
Yeah, I just like the idea of raising the level. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like challenge people, you know what I mean? Challenge folks to raise the level. You know what I mean? Like,
but like even in the chat though, right? When I'm listening to people, I swear I don't think people understand determinism and compatibilism. Because now, even when we start talking about evolution, like look at like not Sunshine.
Oh, American Dream will fight me in the chat for the panel. That's why I said, man, jump on the panel. I don't type it.
Yeah, American Dreams. Statement. It's like, okay, you can go to evolution, but just understand that when you cross from what we're talking about into other things, that's why Unc's question was so important. When you cross into these other things, I just think you just got to be careful trying to just muddy the whole thing up. And you know what's funny? It makes me understand why y'all argue so much on these I'm gonna say it, the BE conversations, because I could just see, I literally see how people just throw entire thousands of years all together and just start throwing thousands of miles all together. You can't just say one thing is one thing, so something else, a part of the conversation is the same thing. It's just it's just very dangerous when you do that.
Yeah, they'll surf past 1,000 years like it's a day.
Yeah.
They'll go from the Green Sahara to the Ptolemaic period. Like, bro, you just jumped 8,000 years, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? it's like Jesus.
Or here's one of my favorite ones, right? You have 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA.
Oh, Neanderthal.
Therefore, you're 1 to 2% non-human. I don't know where that argument came from or how it was derived, but no, I can't find that anywhere. Said that. I don't know. It's completely absurd, right? No one would say that a human is 1 to 2% non-human. Either you're human or you're not. Come on.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I came on to say, if I may, you guys, last time you were speaking about determinism, you had I think his name was M. Notes on. He said he was a philosophy major, and his thesis was on free will. You remember that guy speaking with him?
Yeah, I wasn't on the show. I think Brass was.
I remember.
Yeah, I thought his view was very interesting and somewhat of I think of an expert, and I think he was kind of dismissed as jargon and word salad. And
can I ask you a question? So, Sunchild, it's not that he was dismissed. Here, this is our issue all the time, because we try to deal with the experts and bring in experts. We would never deny an expert. But what I won't allow you to do, if you're read on the subject and we're telling you what we read, that's one thing. If you just show up on YouTube and say, because you got a bunch of books behind you and you sound intelligent, that you are a doctorate in philosophy and all this and the other, we just don't immediately take you at face value. That's all. So and then the only
don't
thing
understand
left for
the
us,
philosophy part of the doctorate.
Right. Yeah. So when we say things like, when someone tells me that they are educated, like super educated, but then in the same breath say philosophy is the #1 science out of all sciences definitively, like as if there's a college Associated Press ranking of all the sciences that everybody agrees on, then your doctorate sounds fugazi. When you say things like the philosophy in PhD means that philosophy is the #1 because that's the highest level of education, but just completely blow past that philosophy comes from the Greek philosophia, which means lover of wisdom, which means when you get that PhD, it's not just literally a love of philosophy, it's the love of wisdom. So when you say you're a doctorate, right? When you have a doctorate, but then you make, I follow a simple rule on YouTube because it's the only thing I can do. When you tell me things like you understand quantum physics but don't understand superposition, or when you tell me that you know how to build a house but you don't know what a nail is, then it just throws everything out, and I don't allow you to tell me just because you have books behind yourself and you talk like you got a good sense or whatever that means, I don't just allow you to say doctorate. So when you say, the reason why you would say that we're saying word salad and all of that is because you've fallen for the flim flam of all those books behind him and how he sounds. I don't know if he has a doctorate. I don't care if he has a doctorate. Doesn't matter. I'm just not going to just let him just say whatever. Anyone, not just him, anybody just come up here and say, I have a doctorate, therefore I'm an expert. That's a very dangerous way to be, and that's how you get pseudoized. That's how you end up in a
well, one thing that he said that stuck to me was he reiterated very firmly that the subject of free will is 100% a philosophical one and not scientific. Did you guys agree with that? And what is the scientific basis that you're using with these discussions on free will, except for perhaps the double slit experiment is the only experiment scientifically that I can point to? What scientific basis do you have with regards to free will in these discussions that you're having?
Logic. Go ahead, bro. Because I don't believe in free will, so it's not something that I'm not going to.
What scientific basis is there for determinism then? What is the scientific basis for determinism then?
I gauge it.
One thing, like I said, one thing you said is that it's 100% philosophical discussion, and that it's not scientific. And I want to know, do you guys agree with that? And if not, what is it? And if not, what is the scientific basis for determinism?
Let me explain it. Oh, Jesus Christ! Even though it's philosophical, right? The arguments that we make are scientific. The arguments we make are through neuroscience in the brain, right? So the arguments that we make are scientific. So if you watch the debate, you hear all the arguments that Mark was making. We start talking about glucose, you start talking about your frontal lobe, and you start talking about dopamine and all these things. These are scientific jargon that we're using, scientific experiments, stuff like that we're using.
Can you tell me what experiment you spoke about tonight?
I didn't speak about it. Marcus was speaking about it.
What experiments did he mention? What experiments did he mention?
Wait a minute. Did you watch the debate?
I did from the beginning.
So why are you asking? Did he present experiments? You saw them, right?
Because that's what science is based on: observation, testing, and reproducing results.
So I'm asking us. Listen to me. Instead of asking us, you saw the debate. You saw what he presented. Tell me at least one thing that he presented that would answer your question.
Nothing scientific that I heard, and that's why I'm asking you, what did I miss? That's why I'm asking you, what did I miss that was scientific?
What was he arguing? What was his philosophical arguments? Let's do that.
So there was nothing scientific. That's what you're saying, because you're answering my question with a question.
I'm saying,
Logic, are you awake?
I mean, I'm here. I just don't know what he wants, yo.
Ask Logic. He was a debater. Ask Logic. That's part of the reason why we're doing the after debate. Logic is there. Ask him your question.
Logic. What the gentleman M notes? He said he had a PhD in philosophy. He said that the subject of free will is 100% philosophy and not scientific. And I think you guys are approaching it from a scientific viewpoint, like the gentleman just said, that your arguments were scientific, glucose, and so on. And I'm asked, my question is, what is the scientific basis based on experiments and observation, something concrete, scientific evidence for determinism?
For determinism?
Yes.
So it really depends. It depends on kind of like how you look at it. But there are experiments like the Benjamin Libet experiments as one that's really easy.
The experiments in
you said Benjamin Libet.
Rome, goddamn, you know where they deprive the babies. My brain is late.
Didn't you talking about the marshmallow?
What was the study? What was it done at though? In Romania, I think it's Romania. It done in Romania.
Oh yeah, he actually did speak about that one. The one where the kids, they grew up like in some weird social environment. I mean, there are a couple.
Yeah, and he also talked about the study with the layered neural networks, right? There was his conversation was well sourced, right? Yeah. So there's, we can. I don't know how how many examples do you want? You know,
I don't know what you want. Like why? Yeah. What are you really asking? Like, just get to it. If you feel like it's not a scientific
do you think it wasn't well sourced or?
No, I asked the question. I asked the question and I got a response. You said Benjamin Libet experiment. You said there was an experiment with twins. Do you know the name of that experiment that I can research to see if there was a free will aspect to that?
Not necessarily for the free will.
I'd like
saying free will? What do you? Hold on. Let me ask you a question. Are you saying, because you're saying free will? Marcus was arguing determinism.
I'm sorry. I mean determinism.
So
did you see the Romanian child experiment? Did you hear him when he brought that up?
Yes.
I may have.
Did that on a brain show too. If you check that.
Yes, but when he's arguing determinism, though,
it sounds like he's trying to trap us into saying none of those experiments prove free will, whatever. Like, I want him to just get to what are you trying to say?
Yeah, because saying when he's arguing,
no. If you heard what I said was the gentleman, the PhD who said it was a PhD in philosophy. He says that this subject is 100% philosophical and not scientific. So that's why I wanted to say, what is the scientific basis? And you guys have answered the question. And I'll go further and look at these scientific studies on free will that you are suggesting are in fact studies on determinism.
Look up also Mendelian genetics. Look up the Romanian child. Look up Laird. That's another one. Because even in genetics, that inheritance of certain traits follow predictable patterns too. So and then also hold up. So let me say one last thing, and I'll let you go, bro. But another thing is when you say things are 100% of anything, I'm not trying to be funny, but that's a red flag for me, because to say that a conversation is philosophical, yes, but there are many aspects to a conversation. You even brought up the double slit experiment, right? So with it, there's other things. There's other things, like if we were going to talk about the universe, not necessarily what we were talking about today, but let's just say we were having that conversation. 100% of anything is a major red flag, because these conversations are being had not just on YouTube. These conversations are being had at a high level with experts, and the fact that these discussions are going back and forth, 100% is a strong statement. That's like saying a coffee light and sweet is 100% coffee. That wouldn't be right.
Okay. Well, the reason I brought up the double slit experiment is I brought
up. Don't go back there, Sunshine. Hold on, back there, Sunshine.
Hold on, because
I'm not going back there. I'm not going back there. I'm just saying I brought that up to show that. But
you are going back there.
Yeah, but you are going back there.
That's what I'm saying is that all he's doing when he's making these different scientific arguments, he's showing. All you're going to see is him showing cause and effect. He's just showing, like, okay, through the remaining experiments, these children were deprived of food. We're actually within that deterministic view that that the lifestyle of the fetuses was affected by the environment, which when the child was born leads to these child having mental issues. So he's showing, so that's all he's going to be doing within those scientific conversations, just showing cause and effect and how these different cause and effect and internal, external stimuli influence how you behave. That's all you're going to see. So
okay. So when I Google, for example, if I Google double slit experiment disproves determinism, it'll come up. Double slit experiment disproves determinism. Do any of these experiments that you're citing, is there an experiment that I can Google and say let me just finish. Can I just finish my question? Can I just finish the question? Is there an experiment I can put in that says this experiment proves determinism?
No, you cannot. No, you cannot, because I'm not going to acquiesce to a faulty premise. If we move forward on a faulty premise, then anything you say becomes valid when the first thing you said is not going to say it. You might find someone that says that, but if you do actually research the double slit experiment, they'll tell you it challenges determinism in regards to physics. It's not necessarily in regards to everything else. So when you're saying disprove or debunk, not in the conversation that we're having. No. So you can't say, I'm not going to allow you to just sit here and say that and then just say a whole bunch of other stuff. It's the first thing you said.
Fine. Okay, then I'll reword that. If I were to say this experiment, double slit experiment, challenges determinism, are any of the experiments that you're mentioning tonight, can I bring it in terms of determinism and it'll pop up? Or do I have to have something else, and determinism is just something you're pulling from those experiments that you're citing?
Determinism, listen. Okay, I'm gonna say. Now we've said this a few times.
Yeah, we've said that you're conflating, right? We've already said that you're conflating,
right?
So I don't know why.
I'm gonna just say this. Listen, I'm gonna just say it one last time.
No, God.
This is the last time, and I understand you're trying to get this off because you think you caught something. I'm gonna say this one last time. The uncertainty principle introduces a level of fundamental unpredictability at the quantum level.
Quantum level.
A challenge, but it's
quantum
at the
level.
Quantum
Keep that.
level. So
Keep that level.
let me finish. So yeah, so that's not. We're not. We're at the quantum level, bro. I've said it 3 times.
Our brains don't exist at the quantum level, right?
The double
our decision making doesn't exist at the quantum level.
It challenges. It doesn't disprove. This is a key word.
Stop bringing the quantum world into the macro world.
Yes.
So you're saying the uncertainty principle challenges the idea of free will. Is that what you're saying?
I said don't do quantum physics. I'm not gonna do quantum physics, and we're right to the
double. Are you saying the uncertainty principle challenges free will?
Deterministic views in physics, but it does not categorically.
Let me ask Sunchild a very basic question. What do you think the double slit experiment tells us about the natural world?
Well, what I got from it, and from the people who say it disproves, those small amount of people who say it actually disproves determinism, is that the particles and waves choose to behave differently under observation. That their behavior is a choice, and they choose, and the particles actually interfere with each other under observation.
Oh, now I understand.
Yes, and there are those connotations as well, that at the quantum and at the wave level there is consciousness and decision making. So yes, those ideas are there.
You're dealing with quantum quackery. That's what you're dealing with.
Well, that's fine. That's fine.
Quantum quackery.
That's the appeal. That's the appeal to ridicule, and that's just. I'm not going to deal, and I'm not going to do. And you're dealing.
We dealt with it.
You're simply dealing with appeal to ridicule,
and we know the origins of where you get your arguments.
That's fine. That's fine.
One of the books is called the Tao of Physics, right? One of the very early the Tao of Physics. Have you read it?
Subatomic particles having cognition.
You should read it. That's where you get your arguments from.
Subatomic particles having cognition is not supported by scientific evidence or theories in physics. So where do subatomic particles have cognition? Now source up.
Yeah, there you go.
Source
As if
up.
They have a brain.
Source up. And that's why I mean by when I say I'm not gonna let you say American Dream, you do have a point. I'm not trying to be a Nazi up here or nothing like that. But what I'm saying is when you say things like subatomic particles have cognition and then continue talking, what happens is we forget we don't address the first sentence that you said. Yes. If we don't address the first sentence that you said being a faulty premise, then we are going to you're forcing us to acquiesce to the rest of it, where the first 5 words of what you said is not supported in science or physics.
Yes. So
what you asked me,
what we will do, we will pose the same challenge to you. Show us a scientific study or an experiment that shows us that subatomic particles have cognition. Show us that.
And by the way, American Dream don't even agree with you now, and he's pretty much on your team right now.
And don't say the double slit experiment, because that doesn't show that.
Dream, then you're done.
Well, that's fine. Since you've taken that off the board, what you asked me was what did I?
Science and physics have taken it off the board.
It's a phenomenon, right? It just shows a phenomenon, wave particle duality of light.
That's fine. Well, what you asked me was what did I get from the double slit experiment, and I told you that I got from it as well as the people that I was reading on who said it disproves
the. Who?
Well, I'd have to actually go back and find these sites that I was reading.
I just want to finish with this, Sunchild. Subatomic particles do not have condition, do not have cognition. They behave according to the rules of quantum physics. That doesn't mean that they can think. What are the rules of quantum physics?
Obviously, you don't know what those are.
There are rules of quantum physics.
So we got to go over all the rules of quantum physics.
Yeah, and that's
we're not going to do that on this live.
Can you tell me one rule of quantum physics?
I'm not going to talk. I didn't want to talk about
one rule of quantum physics is that a quantum system can exist in a state of superposition, which you didn't know.
Go ahead.
What is superposition?
Explain it to you. Go read a
Google
book.
that shit.
Go read a book. I'm not going to explain it to you.
What does that mean? It can seem to appear in one place and actually be in like two places at once.
You're close. You're getting closer.
So where's the rule? So the rule is there are no rules.
That's the area you live in. I agree.
Did he say the rules is there are no rules?
Yeah, he said the rule is there are no rules.
Okay, go ahead. Go.
That the laws of physics. The rule is that the laws of physics as we know them do not apply in the quantum realm.
Okay.
Because one thing does not appear in two different places according to the laws of physics.
That's what we've been saying. I think that's what we've been saying.
So why are you talking about rules? So why are you talking about rules? So why are you talking about the rules of quantum physics?
In the very fact, you just said that the rules.
I apologize. Go ahead.
You just said that the rules in quantum physics or the rules in physics don't apply to quantum physics. And you know what? And vice versa. You can't bring what happens in quantum physics, you can't bring it into the macro world. We're having a conversation about things that are going on in the macro world. You can't bring that forward.
No, that's not necessarily true.
You just said they don't apply. Didn't you just say they don't apply?
I said
now you're contradicting yourself.
You're
going to contradict yourself now.
No, let me clarify. What I'm saying is the laws of physics come from the laws of or the quantum realm and not vice versa. So the same way the laws of physics come from the singularity, where the laws of physics break down. So we know where the laws of physics come from, and so what we do not know, it does apply to us, but what we know doesn't necessarily have to apply to what we do not know. You cannot turn it around like that.
I don't know. I don't know. That was babble. That was babble.
Yeah, but what we do know, Sunchild, what we do know is that subatomic particles do not have cognition per science.
That's what you think. Science has not proven that outright either. That is what you think.
We will never agree. So
that is what you think. That is only what you think.
What's yours a study proving it, right? You before you make that statement, because you made a positive statement, right? Saying that that subatomic particles have cognition. Show us an experiment. Show us a study that's proving it.
I'll show you a study proving it.
But you're not going to be able to do that.
Disproving it. Show me a study. Show me a study that tells you that you know where consciousness comes from. Show me a study that tells me you know where consciousness comes from.
Science doesn't run around disproving things like
that. You do not know that either. You do not know. You have no idea where consciousness comes from. And you are telling me where consciousness is and where it is not.
Sunchild, we haven't disproven.
I know we ain't got no rules.
Purple unicorns either. We just haven't seen any.
No, unicorns and consciousness are two very different subjects, and you are pretending to know where consciousness.
No, I'm talking about unicorns and conscious
and all the rules of consciousness when you do not. You do not know everything about consciousness. You do not know where consciousness came from. You only pretend to know because it makes you feel better in your natural state of mind.
Okay.
Now we're getting to it.
That's fine. But what I also wanted to say, and I'll go at this. I think another subject that you should
go ahead and put God on the table. Right?
No, another subject. Another thing.
God, are you looking for some divine?
No. That's fine. That's okay. Well, listen.
What are you looking for?
If you're gonna let me speak, just let me speak.
No, I just want to get to it. What are you really trying to say?
Well, what I'm really trying to say now is that another very serious issue with the idea of free will is the concept of self, the I. If there is no free will, there is no me, there is no I, there is no self. And I think that's a very serious idea that we have to discuss in this topic as well. What happens to the concept of self? If there is no decision, because it is the individual or the person that is making decisions, and if you take decisions away from a person, you take away their concept of self and their individualism and who they truly are.
Now that's a valid argument.
And you are and
the confines of this conversation.
Yes, and since you want me to bring God into it so bad, first with this idea of naturalism is you remove God from the picture and then you remove the individual. You have naturalism and atheism first removes God, and then the next step is to remove the person themselves from. And what are you left with if there is no God and no me? Then there's nothing.
Which
you
God?
You are left with a philosophical viewpoint.
Which God are you trying to put in there?
Whichever God there is. Whichever God there is, you do not believe in any God, so you have removed the idea of God, and then you remove the idea of the individual themselves. And what have we left? After you have done that, what are we left with? You are leaving us with nothing. You are leaving us with nothing with this philosophical idea.
Yeah, hold on, Sunshine.
I have been allowing you to speak.
No, you haven't. You've been talking for 10 minutes straight. Let somebody else talk.
We can hear the anger in your voice.
We know.
Listen. It is three of you against me. It is three of you against one.
I'm not against you. I'm not even talking. I'm just tired of hearing
I do not get a chance to get in. Go ahead and speak.
Wait.
What do you say to that? What do you say to that?
I just asked you, which God do you believe in? That's what I say to it. Which God do you believe in?
Well, I like to say I do not have a dogma in the fight. I do not know what God is. I believe that there is a creative force in the universe that has created us and the entire universe. I do not know the nature of that being. I do not know anything about it to even give it a name. It is way beyond my ideas to wrap my mind around it. That's what I think.
No idea about.
That is, the only thing I know is I believe that it exists and it is the source of the creation.
And you have no information to substantiate that belief.
I just gave you some information. That is the information that I have given you.
You said that you didn't know anything about it.
Well, I have to. Yes, there's not much I can tell you that I know about the Creator. No,
you can tell me about it.
I can tell you that it exists and it is the source, and it is a conscious source, and it is an intelligent source, and it is the creator of the universe and all things within it.
What are you basing that on, though? What are you basing that knowledge on? You say you knew nothing about it.
Well,
he said, I know nothing about it, but I know there is a source of the universe.
He gave her something, but he has no idea and knows nothing about it. Somebody
knows all of this. It's crazy.
Well, I am
someone created something. You're not giving us anything, though.
Well, I am basing on the fact that there is an intelligent universe created with laws. Laws can only come from an intelligent mind. So that alone is a clue to me that there is an intelligent source to the universe. The fact that we are consciousness exists, we do not know where it came from, but we know that consciousness can only come from consciousness. So there is a conscious source to the consciousness in the universe. And there is an intelligent mind, and there's an intelligent mind to the intelligent laws of the universe.
All the sources and studies that we need.
Filibustering your argument just sounds crazy.
What happened to all of that, right? We need
listen, this is
and, data.
No, you haven't been paying attention. The pseudo killers are philosophers now. We're philosophizing. This is what the pseudo killers do now.
Not at all.
You haven't been paying attention.
You brought in the bar of
no. The pseudo killers aren't scientists anymore. We are now philosophers. You are now philosophers. We're in the realm of philosophy.
Besides Cedric, which one of us are scientists? Hold on. So besides Cedric, which one of us are scientists? Which one of us has ever said we were scientists?
Well, you are not. You may not say you are scientists, but you are definitely proponents of science as the source of truth.
That's the challenge. You just say things with no kind of
proof. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. I mean,
you're not going to allow me to talk on our channel. On the pseudo killer channel, you're not going to allow me to talk. I gotta get permission from you on our channel. Okay. You say Sunchild, I appreciate your support, but here's the things that in conversations, just in dialogue, that I try to stick to specific things in it. When you say certain things and you keep doing it, pseudo killers are now philosophers. None of us said that. We're having a philosophical conversation. I guess the world can tell us what kind of conversations we can have publicly and private. Pseudo killers are now scientists. None of us said that either. That's y'all putting that on us. Y'all, that like the world or whatever, just saying that we're this, as if we just sit around in our Discord, read books to each other. Like that's not how it is.
I was just being a smart ass, brother. I was just being a smart ass. Why do you take that thing serious?
No. But the thing is, you're not the only person saying it. I guess I'm responding more. There's my external factors over the past week are responding to the world, just telling us, you know what? Y'all said that y'all have scientific literacy. Y'all can't talk about basketball. Like that's not fair. That's not even fair to what we do. We're all human, black, white, otherwise. We're still human. We have conversations. We have other passions. We have other hobbies. But we are just having a philosophical discussion right now. We understand you're an intelligent design person, and there's nothing wrong with that, bro, because that's what you want to believe. That's what you want to follow. Even if you want to believe it with no proof, no whatever, that's fine. That's on you. I'm not going to attack you for doing it, but you just got to understand, if you present us with nothing, one thing we will go to a source. If you present your point of view with no source, no backing, no consensus, nothing, it's going to be almost an impossible conversation on this channel because we're basically fighting with our arms tied behind our back. Because technically, with no source, no consensus, nothing, you could just say whatever you want and ask whatever question you want. We just got to answer it with sources from consensus with a scientifically literate perspective, which is impossible, bro. That's why these arguments become contentious. I'm gonna land my plane. That's why these arguments become contentious, or this discourse becomes contentious, because like Brendan said, it has no parameters. So when you don't have a conversation within a set of parameters, one side is left to say whatever they want, and we have to stick within this distinct set of parameters and just talk to you. It's not a good conversation.
That's fine, but you're saying I'm giving you nothing. I've given you something. What I've said is that there is intelligence.
You believe in something you have no source of.
No. And I told you
threw God in our lap, dude.
You're cutting me off, brother. I let you speak, and you're not allowing me to finish my thought. There is clearly design in the universe. There's intelligence, consciousness. These, for me, are hints.
Source up.
Source up for what? That there are laws in the universe? You don't know that. You don't know that.
You said there's no. You said there's clearly design. There's clearly an intelligent being.
Right.
So that has to mean that the intelligent being created. Stop.
In order for the world,
I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm gonna ask you a question. Honestly, you said that there's clearly an intelligent being behind all of this. Source up.
I did not say that.
Intelligent. Okay, so what did you say?
I did not say that. I said if you look in the universe, there's evidence for design, there's evidence for intelligence, there's evidence for consciousness exists in the universe. And those all are clues that if there's a design, then there's a designer. If there's laws, there's a lawgiver. If there is intelligence, there is a mind.
This is what you do though. That's fine, because I knew eventually you'd get to the designer. Because of the clues that you have seen, source up as to what that designer is. Show us one source.
Of what that designer is?
Yeah, you said there's clues because of the universe's design, because of the intelligence, whatever. And then you said, because there's clues that there is a designer, there must be a designer. Just source up as to who or what that designer is, and I'll have the conversation.
Well, I cannot tell. Listen. I cannot tell you who or what the designer is. I can only tell you that the designer is.
So how can we discuss it?
Well, we can only discuss it to a certain degree. I cannot tell you who or what it is. I can only tell you that based on these clues, there is a designer.
You can only
know who it is or what it is or the full nature of it. But based on the clues, I can tell you that there is.
Okay, so
not what is, but that is.
Yes. That's all you can do is say it.
Yeah, because you have no proof.
Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. But there is no. I can't. You can't say I don't have proof because I've given. You can't say I have no proof. I've just given you proof
in my closet.
You can't say I have no proof. I've just given you proof. I've given you proof that there is design, there are laws in the universe, there's intelligence, there's a mind, and all of those are clues that all of those things can only come from an intelligent mind.
How do you take clues all the way to just clues? Like you just take clues all the way to there is an intelligent designer. You don't see how that's
no, that is a scientific conclusion. Wherever there's design, wherever there's design, wherever there are laws, there is a lawgiver or a designer. If you can show me that, I can prove to you scientifically. If you can show me where there is design and law without a designer or lawgiver, then you have proven that there doesn't need to be a designer or a lawgiver. But that is a scientific conclusion.
Right? You said it's a scientific conclusion. That means they use the scientific. That means they use the scientific methods to show me the designer.
Not to show you the designer, but to show you that there is a designer. Because scientifically, you can only have a design and a law.
Enjoy that.
You can only have design and laws by an intelligent mind. You cannot have laws and design outside of an intelligent mind. That is scientifically true.
Good content at this point.
That is scientifically true. You can only have design and laws from an intelligent mind. That is a scientific fact. Unless you can prove otherwise.
You made that up. No. That is not true.
That is not true. Right? And this is why when y'all get on YouTube and y'all sound good, we don't fall for it.
So you want me to prove everything you're saying? Right? Go ahead. Bring up a textbook. Go ahead and bring a textbook. Go ahead. You got a textbook.
So now all of a sudden I asked you for a source 10 minutes ago, and now
you want to share your screen?
I can prove it.
You're talking me to death. I'm dying here. Right?
No. I can prove. I can prove it simply. I can prove it simply.
No.
I can prove it. I can. Just let me speak.
Academic source.
Just let me speak. No, I can prove it simply and philosophically. Here goes. Just let me prove. Y'all are running scared.
No. You said scientific.
You all are running scared. You all are running scared. I can prove it to you. Yes, I can prove it to you observationally. That is science. So here goes. And I do and I do not need a
No,
source for it.
philosophy is about
It
the
is
why, not
so
even the how. Science is about the
it
how.
is
Philosophy
it is so
why.
simple.
It's
If
not
you
even.
just hear me out, you
I
all are
don't
just
believe
afraid to let me speak. Just hear
Nope,
me out.
not at all.
That's all I'm asking.
You just
Hear
hit the
me
brick
out.
wall. Nope, you hit
No,
the
I
brick
did not.
wall.
You've hit the brick wall.
No, you hit a
You've
stop
hit the
sign.
brick
You just
wall.
didn't
You just
stop.
said that you can
You
prove
have
it.
hit the
You're not
brick
a
wall.
scientist. You're not
I
a
can prove
scientist.
to
You're not a
you. I
researcher.
can
You don't
prove
have to
to you
rely on somebody that
if
is.
you will remain
You need to
quiet,
share
I
your
will
dream.
prove to you
You don't
without
need
a
to talk
source.
anymore.
The
No,
only
you don't.
source will be your own brain.
Nope,
And if your
nope,
brain is not source enough, then that's your
We
problem.
want a source,
But
That's
bro.
the
We don't
fact
want. We
is,
want that. We want a
the
source.
fact is,
and you just
this
failed. You
telephone
just
that
failed.
we're on,
And you
this
just failed.
telephone that I'm on, that computer that you're on is designed.
Oh my God!
The
By who?
laws of this,
Can you get something better, bro?
the laws of this country come from an intelligent
Oh,
mind. Everything that man creates, we know that everything that's created was created by an intelligent mind.
this is
Nothing
this
that's
is the
been created,
ridiculous.
this house that I'm
This
sitting
is
in,
the
this phone
ridiculous.
that I'm on, everything that I am, that is around me has been created, and I can point to a creator. There's nothing here that has a design and has laws that I can point to that says there is no designer for that. Everything around
Who
you
designed
right
the
now,
universe? Who designed
everything
the
around
universe?
you, that is the perfect
What's his
question, and
name? Does
that's
he
a
have a
great
name?
question.
Where does
I
it?
do
Where
not.
does it live?
No, now you're moving beyond a good question. The good question is who designed, because that comes
No,
from the
who is
fact
it?
that
Original
Who is it?
question.
you
Who
see
is it?
design in the universe. You
Santiago,
have
The
to
just
see,
question we
you
just
have
asked
to
you.
admit.
just
Let me
tell
ask
us
you a
who it
question.
is, bro.
No, don't ask me anything.
Is there design in the universe? Is
Don't
there
ask
design
me
in the
anything.
universe?
Don't ask me
Is
anything.
there a design in the universe?
Don't ask me a question.
There's no design. You don't
question is
see
on
any
the table.
design in the universe.
You gotta
Okay, well,
answer your question.
okay,
Don't
okay.
ask
Well,
me
look
anything.
up. Look up constructal law for design in the universe. Constructal law.
Describe it.
Constructal law. It is described in. If you look it up, it'll describe the design in the universe and how the universe appears to be designed. Whether you want to say appears to be or not.
Yeah, appears
But
is not. Appears
even if
means
we
not.
agree, can you agree that the
I appear to
universe
be tired.
appears
Guess
to be
what? I'm
designed?
not. He's not.
No, I don't know what that is. Describe what
You
this
don't.
constructive thing. Right. Give us.
Well,
You know, I'm curious.
You're
Right?
supposed to be teaching us what the source is, bro.
What does it say?
Well, I'd have to actually look it up, but it talks
don't know
about
what it
design
Oh
in
my
the
God.
universe, how in the flow of in how the flow of rivers and how it connects to the continents, that there is design in a lot of different aspects of the universe, and that it has there's uniformity. And there's also uniformity, and these are all. But if you look up, and I'll ask your audience to look up constructal law if they're interested in finding it without me rambling and messing up the definition. You can look it up, or you can bring it up and bring it on the page, and it'll explain it further to you. It's called constructal law, and it's a gentleman who made this idea that he can show the design in the universe. And I think you'd find it very interesting. And I think you'd find it very interesting. But I shouldn't even have to really argue whether there's design in the universe. The fact that there is the waters, there's condensation, and then there's the clouds form, and then the rains fall, and the grass grows. You can see a design in that, can't you?
Oh,
Can you not see a design in nature where there's condensation of the water from the ocean, from the clouds, and the rain falls, and then the seasons change? You don't see a design there.
So, child, take a breath, my nigga.
Nobody's listening to you.
No one is listening to you.
No, not at all. Because what you're talking about, you're in the realm of belief, right?
No, I'm only talking science to you.
You don't have to.
I have only been speaking science to you. I have spoken to you about design, laws, and intelligence, and I have asked you And I've asked you, yeah.
I'm gonna do what you asked. I'm about to do something that you asked me.
The constructive law. All right, look it up.
Listen, I'm gonna speak to constructive law.
Just let me say
this. Just let me say this. It's Adrian Bejan that you're looking at. Adrian Bejan, the principal of physics and thermodynamics. I'm gonna say this to you. Just let me finish. No matter how this makes you feel, just let me finish. The constructive law doesn't prove intelligent design. It's about how things in nature. See, you have no self-control, do you? Okay. The constructive law doesn't prove intelligent design. It's about how things in nature, like rivers or tree branches, form patterns that make flows like water or air move more efficiently. It's based on physics, not the idea of an intelligent designer creating things. So it's
what are you reading from, Brass?
ChatGPT. So it's more about explaining natural patterns scientifically, not about suggesting they're designed by someone or something. So you asked us to look it up. Let me finish. You asked us to look it up. It is not pseudoscience. It is not. Because my original question was, is constructive law pseudoscience? They said constructive law is a legitimate scientific principle proposed by Adrian Bejan, a professor of mechanical engineering in 1996. It's a law of physics based on thermodynamics, but it does not prove intelligent design. Try again.
I did not say it proves intelligent design. What I said is it proves design or pattern. There's a design or a pattern in nature. That's what I said. Now, I take that from my scientific mind, and that tells me whether there's a design or a pattern, there's an intelligent mind. The gentleman who came up with constructive law is not saying there's an intelligent design. That's not for him to say. All he's saying is there is design. Now, I had asked you before, do you believe now that there's design in nature? Do you believe it now? Now that you've seen what you've just seen, do you believe now that there's design or pattern in nature?
Yeah, there's patterns, yeah.
And then pattern is synonymous with design, yes.
But his theory is explaining the pattern.
Exactly. So there is design. So we can agree with that. Now the idea is that's fine. I'm not saying he's saying there's intelligent design. I'm saying he's saying there is design. And what I'm saying is, when you see a design and laws, there's a designer and lawgivers.
Child, give me the scientists that are making the arguments that you're making, bro. That's it.
Scientists that are making the argument for intelligent design.
That's saying, that's making, Who are you using? Let's see.
Well, there are tons of scientists that make the argument for. Well, there's you're probably familiar with the ones, and you're probably just going to shoo them away based on your prejudice with individuals like Michael Bay.
We're going to see
with intelligent design. Specifically scientists who talk about intelligent design, like Michael Behe, and the other gentleman that's always talking about intelligent design. He's a scientist. They all have a group of scientists. They are legitimate scientists, but they are considered pseudo because they put the word intelligent design along with their style. But they are
intelligent design is a pseudoscience.
But listen, you can't be a pseudoscientist unless you're a scientist. They are scientists. But they are considered pseudo simply because
that's not what that means. You even messed up the word definition of pseudoscience.
Can I get in there? Can I get in here and have a
definition like
you even messed
that up. Listen, I literally just looked. Is there anything, anywhere, anytime, any place that proves intelligent design? I just want you to listen to just listen. The concept of intelligent design, which suggests that certain features of the universe and living things are best explained by an intelligent cause, is not supported by the scientific community as a valid scientific theory. I'm going to finish. It's considered more a philosophical or theological concept than a scientific one. In science, explanations and theories are expected to be testable and based on empirical evidence. That's why you're getting so much pushback from us. That's why. You could have this conversation on 1,000 channels. You just chose the wrong one today.
No, I've chosen the right one. I know where I am. Trust me, I know where I am.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is I'm only adding a little.
Obvious.
I'm only adding a little bit of perspective. Now, what it says is that it's a philosophical and theological, and obviously the designer cannot be observed or tested. This is something that we have to deal with. But what we are saying is that there is a designer, not who it is or what it is, because we understand that it cannot be observed and tested. In the same way, the singularity cannot be observed and tested. So, but the Big Bang, but the Big Bang is considered science, but we've never observed or tested that either. So there's a whole lot in science that has never been observed. You have never observed macro. You have never observed or tested. You have never observed or tested macroevolution in the sense that one species evolves from another. You've never observed or tested that. You've never observed and tested that. No, you have never observed. You have never. You have observed fossils. You have never observed evolution. You have never observed. You have never observed the process. You have. Let me finish. You have never observed the process of evolution. You have only looked at bones. You have only looked at bones and drawn conclusions from what you have seen, but you have not observed evolution in process. You have never observed evolution in process. The same way you have never observed the Big Bang in process. You have.
Thank you. So, Sunchild, I just want to say something else. This is why we don't acquiesce to faulty premises, because you also said you took what he said in regards to patterns in nature and took it to design, because you said patterns and design are the same. Now, I wanted to say right then that you weren't, but you were screaming. I just want to say a pattern isn't the same as a design. A pattern is a regular arrangement of elements or a repeatable sequence which can occur naturally. A design implies intentional planning, typically by a person. So patterns can be found in nature without implying they were designed by someone. That's why we stay where we at, bro. So that you can't just say a pattern, i.e. design, i.e. designer. That's how you end up in a cult, bro. That's exactly how you end up in a cult, because it sounds good.
Man. I ain't finna study and keep arguing with Dan Sunchild. I might do a show tomorrow. I might just pop up and do a show like do a Zoom like tomorrow about lunchtime.
It's dope, man. We have a good one. Appreciate you, Sunchild. Thanks, bro.
Yeah. This nigga wore me out.
I'm exhausted. I'm like, you ain't mute him yet, but like, Juju got the controls. Okay.
Yeah, Juju got the controls.
All right, later.
All right.
Yep.
You gotta end it, man. Thank everybody for coming out, man. Peace.
Yeah. It's DQ, baby. Pseudo killers, what up? Check. Tapping in, what's the subject? Evolution or revolution, we ain't done yet. Laying flat like Sanchez, it's a bomb threat. I know my flow like Angozi. Source up and show me, homie. You shut up and mute up a moment. The mad scientist, I'm knowing all the components. We own it, and we gon' off it if it's pseudo. You do know we don't entertain that keyboard judo. That big Bobby banger out of Baltimore. Done it all, shop before. Sold a little something, but I taught you more than your average teacher. I had to reach you at your level to bring you up. No devil can never beat you. With precision of a magi, the information supplied by some guys get debunked on live. CK and Juju, I chill in the cut. But if you boys wanna fade, then I'm chefing you up. I organize live, the beats are disorganized truth every time. Kudos, who those niggas? Decorated pseudo killers. Space age Africans, back again. An organized lie, the beats are disorganized truth every time. Kudos, who those niggas? Decorated pseudo killers. Space age Africans, tapping in. I always been fly, that's an actual omen. You can catch me in the sky, ask Anthony Bowman. You see me with his telescope, I was actually floating off some good kush. The Sabio is actually growing. See, Gullah and Kent is where the money gets spent. Them boys got some books that cost as much as you rent. It's
second verse should be smashed Rockwell, but I rock well. Underground like Sumerian Rockwell. In the ring like I'm the Rockwell. Hell, create a different wave that can rock whales. Hell, shit swell like lunar tides. My entendres off Gandra to who describe. Euthanize foolish guys. Scholastically, haphazardly. Turn your camera on and look me in my eyes. And please do subscribe. 8 to 80, blind, cripple, or crazy. You in for a new surprise. It's DQ, a organized lie. Defeats a disorganized truth every time. Kudos, who those niggas? Decorated pseudo killers. Space age Africans, back again. An organized lie. Defeats a disorganized truth every time. Kudos, who those niggas? Decorated pseudo killers. Space age Africans, tapping in.